Hey everyone, it's Friday night open panel live stream. Woohoo! So I wasn't going to do one this week because I've been watching other live streams. I watched a bunch of them earlier today and I was kind of tired. Plus, I've been kind of booked with psychic readings and birth chart readings for the last several weeks. So I've been busy with that, which has been pulling a lot of my energy. And I kind of told my rabbit I wasn't going to have one tonight. Oops. I will text her and let her know, but she's sleeping right now. So I was bored and I was like, you know what? Why not have one? What the hell? I'm bored. I wanted to do something. So I was like, let's do a live stream. And I wanted to check in with my peoples. You guys are my peoples. So I hope everybody's doing well. I know we had the full moon in Libra, which was not the best for me. I was all caught up in my feelings, y'all. I was caught up in feelings. I know it's been hard for some of you, others didn't feel it at all. But if I have any Libras watching, I know y'all were caught up in your feelings. And remember, with full moons and eclipses, it is 3 days before and 3 days after, and then you start to level out. Um, so if any of you have had a hard time over the past couple of days, it's going to go. It's going to go. For those who haven't felt it yet, you guys will feel it later down the line. Um, the full moon in Libra will bring truths and things that have been bothering you into light to heal them. And yeah, it's a slow thing, but over the past 3 days, it's been a little difficult to say the least, especially for air signs out there that have felt this, Libras and Geminis. Um, yeah, and some Aquariuses, but I don't think Aquarius had too bad of a time with it. Um, some other signs have also had a little bit of problem. My phone's been ringing kind of off the hook. With people just asking me what's going on out there. So this too shall pass, as I say with all astrology. As soon as the planets realign, it realigns us and things around us. I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Let's go through the chat. I have Zero. Hi, Zero. Thank you for coming last minute. And Michael Fontaine, Granddaddy. Yay. Hope the grandbaby's doing well. And David, nice to see you here. And am I missing it? I think I got everybody. So basically, I want to go over many different things with you guys. I know, like I said, my phone's been ringing off the hook with people. Really? I'm a slow thing, cursed. People having questions of what's going on out there and the atmosphere and everything else. I know there's some problems with the Schumann resonance thanks to Mud Rabbit. I know those things. There's been different energies going around. And I think a lot of people are just tired right now. And for the sun being in Aries and Aries being all over the chart, we should have a boost in energy. But we're also colliding with the full moon as well. And that's kind of been difficult for a lot of people. Again, not been fun. And has anyone felt like an energy drain, like they're tired more than they usually are? Because some people have been feeling that as well. Again, this too shall pass. Who's coming up on panel? Well, let's see who we have.
What up, Cy?
How you doing, David?
What's
going
on? Just chilling outside right now at the moment.
Oh, cool.
How
Is
you
it
been?
warm there? I've been good. We've been dealing with it.
It's rather, I mean, the weather's fickle here, but as a whole, it's pretty warm right now. So it's about, I'd say it's about 60 degrees out.
Oh wow, that's not bad.
60. No, it's not bad. So, and I don't know how to necessarily deal with the relationship I'm in right now
Mm.
because I can't deal with hyper jealousy and I don't understand it. Um, I mean, I understand being protective of relationships, but I can't deal with the isolation side.
Well,
I
that's
feel like she not feel I'm aware that she attacks any relationship that's outside of the relationship as a threat. And I think that's a problem in her. It bothers me deeply. I don't think it's healthy. Uh,
well.
so
I don't know what zodiac sign she is or you are, but some zodiac show things in different ways, and other ones can't take it, and some can. Like for me, I'm kind of very highly protective of my husband, and he is of me, and we're okay with that. But that might
right,
not be okay with other, you know what I mean? So I think it's finding someone that you are on the same page with. Like if you're fine with the other person doing whatever they want to do, you know what I'm saying? Then you can do whatever you want to do too. But when you have two different ways of thinking together, sometimes if you can't compromise, it makes it difficult.
well, for me, I'm a Taurus. Um, so I always, when I was younger, I talked to another friend of mine. She's out in Colorado right now. I hope she comes on this panel sometimes because she's pretty psychic and doesn't advertise and has her own giftings and abilities, And we've known each other since high school, but she's having a really hard time in this right now. And I was like, you should jump on Size Channel. You'll dig a lot of the people. They'll get you. Like she's on your guys' wavelength. And she just had her mom pass, and that really sucked.
Yeah.
But I guess I had relationships in my life with like married people, and we didn't invade the marriages. Like we weren't afraid that we were going to try and take the marriage away from someone. I've never experienced this in my life. Like I had friends that were married and I was single. 25 years ago. And I knew the boundaries of the relationship that you have in relationship to married people. That you wouldn't blur the lines and I'd take care of their kids. And I'd stay at some of these people's houses and I had relationship to the opposite sex who was married, but I was honorable and respectful of and had the boundaries set in place of that's their marriage. You don't fuck with that. Like I don't.
Right.
So I don't know what's happened in our world that has caused I'd be protective of my wives that I had in the past. Like I was married twice, but I was protective in a way of my second wife, my first wife, girlfriends I had. I mean, like,
Well,
but I
what
don't.
sign is your girlfriend? You're a Taurus, but what is she?
I'm trying to think.
What is she?
I'm not sure. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
What you could do is find out what her sign is, and I can give you a birth chart reading. I do them for free. So you can
Right.
schedule, you have my email, you can schedule that with me. Um, Maybe it's just that you're on two different planes of thinking. Like I
Right.
said, I'm a very highly protective person of my relationship and my marriage, and so is my husband. So no one enters my marriage.
Right.
And I don't have opposite sex friends, and neither does he.
Okay.
And that's an agreement between the two of us because of our signs. I'm a Libra, he's a Capricorn. Neither one of us would play with that. Neither one of us would be okay with that. So it all
Right.
depends. Like you are a Taurus, so you are going through the 20-year upgrade right now. And
Right.
because you're going through the 20-year upgrade, there are things that you're going to change about yourself and directions that the universe is going to push you in.
Right.
Your choice is up to you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you'll have
Yeah.
the harder route if you don't lean into the change than if you lean into it. So in deep down inside you, you know what you have to do.
Yeah.
If you lean into that, it's going to be an easier route. The fixed signs in general, and that's Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius, are all going through the upgrade. It's a 20-year upgrade. It's a long thing, but you're going to have to make hard decisions, and the universe is going to push you to make the decision. You can't just stand, idle. It's not going to let you idle. It's going to say
Right.
you either move on or you are going to stay stagnant. And if you stay stagnant during that upgrade, then you're going to have a harder time than if you leaned into it.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Those who are fixed signs, lean into what the universe is pushing you into, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's not going to be your norm. So there may be things that she feels that are coming down the pike that is making her more protective.
Right.
Does that make sense? Because
No,
if
I
she's
get it.
trying to hold on to you, then and she feels like this something's different's going on or something's happening that doesn't normally happen or your behavior has changed or your mindset has changed, then she's going to hold on more because again, I don't know what sign she is, and I haven't looked at your birth chart or hers to see the compatibility, so I can't tell you that. But I can tell
Right.
you that if, she's a certain sign and she feels something's going on, like signs that are usually like that are Aries, Libras,
Okay.
um, Cancers. The cardinal signs that already went through that just ended their upgrade in 2024, they're going to hold tight because that is part of their sign. They're going to hold tight. Like they're not going to be like, oh, okay, you can talk to anybody, you can do anything. They're going to hold on tight, especially if they feel something's off,
Right.
especially and they're trying to hold on. So again, I don't know what
Right.
sign she is. I don't know what month she was born or her birthday or anything to even tell you generalized. But if she's one of those signs, then yeah, she's going to hold on. Signs that would be more flexible would be Geminis, um, Virgos, Pisces, um, even other Tauruses. And I
See,
don't,
I've met signs that are more flexible in this area, and I guess that's what I'm used to.
right.
I'm used to a woman who is more flexible. Um, I'm used to that in my lifetime. Um, that's
Leos
just
are
my
even Leos are even more flexible in that area. Virgos are more flexible. Aquarius can be flexible in that area as well. But the signs that are going to be more traditionalized, more like, yeah, they're going to have the strong hold on their partner, and they're going to expect it back. Are going to be Capricorn, Libras, Aries, um, Cancers to a certain extent, Scorpios. They're going to be the ones that are going to be like, step the hell back, step the hell back. They're less flexible. They're less flexible in the area that you're talking about. But I don't know what she is, so I can't tell you. But it sounds like she's an Aries from what you're saying. I don't know if that's what she is, but she's got some Aries placement at least, I would assume, or some of the cardinal sign around there. I would say she may be a cardinal sign, but I'll know more once you find out her birthday. So I would check that out. The other thing you're looking at too, with you going through your upgrade, you're going to be pushed in so many different areas, in so many different directions, that you're kind of going to go into tailspin. And being ruled by Venus, that's not going to sit very well for you. You're going to learn more about money management. You're going to learn more about harmony.
Sai.
You're going to learn more.
Yeah. Let me get off and jump back on. My volume got screwed up and I don't know why. I'm having a hard time hearing you. So I'm going to jump off and jump back on StreamYard. Okay.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Kitty Cattywack. I'm so glad you were here, hon. I'm glad you're doing better. I missed you at the live streams. I have missed you. Again, guys, I didn't necessarily technically want this to be an astrology thing, but if somebody has questions, I'm more than happy to answer it for them. And David's back.
Cool. Now I can hear you again.
Is that better for you, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I did have a question for you.
So, like I said, David, if you give me,
if what? What's up?
No, go ahead with your question.
Well, I watched this
dude Mark Cassius
for a while. What's that?
I think you're lagging.
Okay. I watched this dude Mark Passio for a while. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He'd be on your level, for sure. But he kind of, I don't know if he's cut out completely from the world of YouTube because he got fed up. But he understood the occult. He was in it. He was in the dark side of it, and he came out of it. And he covers how to change the way that you think. He covers the tarot. He covers basically how the dark side of things and the occult actually works and how the dark occultists do it. And he exposes all of it, and exposes what it actually is in a way where it can be utilized for the good of humanity instead of the way that the dark occultists do it. But the question I had is, why is the Bible basically the same reflection as the tarot? Like, I've looked, like every character within the spectrum of the tarot is in the Bible. So is the Bible a reflection of the astrological reality, and everything within the biblical text a kind of metaphorical reflection of the astrological universe?
I'm not quite sure on that. Like, I've never seen the similarities between the Bible and the astrology. I have seen similarities between tarot and astrology and events and astrology. And the Bible, since the Bible is based on historical things as well as meaningful things, I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't honestly even gone through the Bible looking for anything astrological. But do you have a video on that?
No, I've just kind of put it together, and I've watched some videos that say there are reflections there, but I kind of put it together a couple of years ago when I started to recognize that everything within the tarot, there are representations of archetypes within the Bible. So everything within the biblical text and everything within the reflection of the tarot, and this goes back to Philip K. Dick too, and going back to what Mark Passio covers, and how the Freemasons actually have a Bible too, that it all interlinks, that it all interconnects within the construct of this reality. So if you take the Bible as an archetypal reflection and take the star system and all the representations of what's in the star system, and you take out the literal context and don't take it as a literal, all these literal people and the literalism that people do with it, and you recognize and overlay the stars, overlay all the kings and queens and characters within the biblical text, and you take all the representation of the tarot, all that is represented in the Bible.
Send me the videos that you do have on it, and I'll take a look at it. I honestly don't see that, but I'd be happy to take a look at it. I know the tarot decks, especially the Rider-Waite, very well, but I also know that astrology and tarot are the same. So
Right.
when it comes to, if you pull a tarot, set up a tarot reading, you're going to pull whatever the planets are aligned every single time. And I've done experiments on that. And I used to do experiments on that when I was on Jay Chris's show years ago. For those that know me from that era and time, that's when I noticed it the most. I was like, everything that they pull with tarot is how the planets are aligned.
Right.
Every time. Like right now, if they pulled it, they'd be like, oh, well, Aries, you might be, like, you pull for an Aries, they might be like, oh, someone's coming for you that might be a Libra or a Leo or a Libra or another Aries, or a Virgo's coming in soon, or a Gemini. And that's all has to do with the planetary alignment. That's why they say so many different signs with one. If you look at the planetary alignment, it's going to match the tarot reading. But
well,
I don't.
There was a guy who wrote a book, Valesky or something about this too. About in the 60s or 70s or maybe further back. I forget his name. I have the book, but he explains how the Bible is all represented within the stars and the planets and all the cycles of all of the astrological reality. So it's cyclical within the planets and all of it, and is a representation of that. So it's all in a sense. What's that?
I would like to see those videos, the ones that you do have, or send them to me in an email, and I'll take a look at them. But I haven't seen it, and I've read the Bible a lot, so I don't see where astrology or tarot has anything to do with the Bible. In fact, I see, like, I would say the only instance in that is in the book of Enoch, when they say the angels, the watchers, came down and told people about the secrets of the heavens. That I could take as an astrology thing. I'd be careful with any tarot reader, because if they're not a good one, they can steer you in a very bad direction. So,
no, I'm very wary of any of it, because I've met a lot of people in my lifetime that do that, and I think there's very few real ones.
I think
at least in my experience.
Ones, but they'll actually they have other gifts too. Like
Right.
I do suggest a safe one, in my opinion, is James 13 Wicca. He's a Wiccan, and he is good at what he does, and he's mindful of the advice he gives. Um,
Right.
so if you're looking for, that's James 13 Wicca on YouTube. Um, he's good as far as, and I can usually feel them out. I actually think he's part psychic as well,
Right.
or has a psychic gift. Um, but I've watched several of them on YouTube, stuff like that, and I just start laughing because I'm like, they're just being ridiculous with shit. Rich Lop is another one that isn't bad. I think he gets stuck on one thing with for a period of time and for all signs, but he's not he doesn't he's not a doom and gloom person. So I think those you have to watch out for. Also with um, psychics and stuff like that, you have to watch out with what their intent is. Are they looking for money? Are they looking to steer you to come back to them and stuff like
Right.
that? Why I don't charge. I don't charge for anything I do, but I also can say no because I'm not money dependent on it. So I
Well,
can be like,
I'm
I'm not doing a reading for you.
I'm very weary of most of them because just my experience here. You know, people who try and exploit other people through their own agendas,
Yeah.
you know, and some people have their own agenda with someone. Um, so they don't do it for the sake of the people they're reading. They put their energy into you so they can direct you how they want to direct you. Or they attempt to, and that's not everyone. I haven't seen that throughout everyone I've ever met in my life who does it, but
Well, I will tell you, like, I've seen psychics that have been like, "Oh, buy this candle and light this candle. Once you light the candle, come back because it's a generational curse." No, 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 don't do that. Don't fight into that. Um, honestly, I've been a psychic all my life, but I've been in astrology for 20 some odd years. And I can tell you, like, there is a responsibility that we do have. But if they don't take that seriously or they take that too lightly, then yeah, then you get, for the ones that are actually psychics, you get like that, con artist type thing going
well,
on.
the three wise men. I don't know what that's what it is now in the Bible. I mean, the Mandela affected shit is so fucked up.
I know.
But it was the three wise men. They were apparently astrologers. Is what the historical background is supposed to be of them. Is that is what people have claimed. You know, I wasn't there, so I don't know. You know, these are all at this point we don't know what our real history is because they have convoluted it so much and changed it so much because the Bibles are now changed, and
Right.
so we don't really know our history anymore. We don't know how we actually got here to this point,
I think
and that's where I've landed. You know,
that's a point where you have to use discernment. Because if you look at, first of all, there's too many, that everybody thinks, that certain people think everything's a Mandela. Not everything is a Mandela effect. That's number one. Some things are cultural differences, geographic differences, some things are evolution. But to what is actually Mandela affected and whether, like, I like to say it like this: I know Kit Kat had a dash. There's no doubt in my mind on that. Kit
right,
Kat definitely had a dash. There are things that I know. Curious George had a tail.
right.
I know those things, but does it really matter in the grand scheme of shit? Like, that
Well,
doesn't
it's just
affect.
like
my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I know it was Lion and the Lamb in Isaiah. I know
Right.
that. I know that. I know that. I know. It's not, but in the grand scheme of things, nobody can change anything that was in the former world, the orange sun, back to what it was.
No.
So we lived in the orange sun world where it was Lion and the Lamb. We now live in the white sun world where it is not.
Yes. I like to say
So
the yellow sun, not necessarily the orange sun, but yeah.
yellow, orange, I mean, however you perceived it, but it was
It's
orange
not
or
white,
yellow.
like just not white like it is now.
It's
But
not, it wasn't a white ball. I know
yeah,
that. I know that it wasn't a perfect concentric white circle
yes,
because
I
that's
know
what it
that.
is now.
Yes.
What I mean, that's what it is now. So
I've been I've
what's
been
that?
on this whole trip with the Mandela Effect movie recently where I watched it and I seen changes in it and I was like, but I keep picking up on this little girl, the little girl in the movie, because she has no, like, basically, for those who haven't seen the Mandela Effect movie, sorry, but it's going to be a spoiler alert for you guys. The girl dies, and the dad discovers the Mandela Effect, and he believes we're in some computer simulator, and he feels he can change that, and he brings the little girl back. The mother sees that something is wrong, and she's like, no, to the kid. She's like, no, you don't belong here. There's no emotion from that child with the mother saying you don't belong here, which would be odd for a small child, right? The other thing is towards the end of the or at the end of the movie, the little girl's like, "Don't be afraid, mommy." So the little girl knew something was going on. So I think we're like that one. Like I think we know what's going on and we are no longer afraid of it.
Right.
It no longer does anything, right? We think about it when you first discovered the Mandela effect, how shocked you were, how drawn in people were, what the hell's going on? And, I was definitely one of them. I wrote in, what's strange things happen around the world and stuff like that. So, in YouTube. So, if you think about it, we're kind of used to it now. We've
Well,
come,
I think we all accept that it's real.
yeah, we
I
all
think the
accept.
difference between you and me and anyone who's in denial of it is we're not afraid that it's happened. We're not in denial. I can talk to probably 80% of the people in churches and they're going to be terrified. They're going to be so terrified. They're going to defend the book. They're going to say, you're wrong, blah, 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 you're deceived by it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not. I know what it used to say. It's not a question in my mind like, oh, it's just misremembering. I'm not reading the Bible right. No, I know what it used to say. It's not deceit. I'm not deceived by the new age. I'm not, it's happened. And it's affected all human life here. And it's affected everything from geography to music to history to historical things happening and existing to maps to historical things that may or may not have existed, like Tartaria. I do think there were other civilizations here that have been covered up. Tartaria, I think, is a Mandela effect. Like I don't remember that one ever existing as a legend until the last 10 years. So we know that this has happened. We know there's residue. We know that Pikachu had a black tail. I mean, and it was life is like a box of chocolates and we are the champions of the world and beam me up, Scotty. And the list goes on. But to be in denial of it and to be afraid that it has happened to every aspect of society and every aspect of reality in every shape or form that exists here. To be saying that it's all extremely one thing limits the unknown. We don't know why. We can theorize. We can
Right.
say that it's simulation. We can say that it's spiritual forces. We can say that it's God doing it. We can say that devil's doing it. We can say, I don't know. I just know it happened. I know that the sun was yellowish, orange, or however you want to say it, and now it's a white ball. I know that Earth is sick right now because of what has happened energetically to her. I know that humanity is disconnected from her. But I also know that there were never unicorns in my Bible. But there are now. So I think that how you have to hold this reality that we have lived in since we were born. And I think Philip K. Dick, because I do land on an aspect of simulated consciousness here. I think there is a simulation running, but I don't think that's the full picture. I think that to just limit it to there's just some machine here running at all times, just correcting things all the time and changing things. I don't think that can even possibly scratch the surface of what is really going on. I think it is only. I think it's only one of the, because there's enough evidence that does exist. There's enough evidence. There's a machine. There's enough evidence if you do enough research that the military has access to technology we don't understand. They have technology that they have created for the last 100 years that we didn't understand. That there were energetic grids that have been created over time all through history that created some kind of machine that has ran societal constructs. So there's evidence. There is actual evidence of that. But to limit it to just that, then we limit the unknown. We limit the unknowable. We limit the unknown, and we land in solidified or polarized viewpoints, just like the thing with the vaxes. That's what it did. It polarized people's mentalities.
So how do you
there,
stop from being polarized?
what's that?
How do you stop from being polarized?
I think the easiest way to not become polarized is to think and say, I don't know. To live in a space of not knowing. To live in the space of the unknown. To not live in fear, but to not live, to allow the unknown to exist within your own consciousness.
To think about it, right, David? So like you can, and I say it on every live stream, you can agree to disagree, right? And it's happening. Nobody's going to change your mind that the Mandela effect doesn't exist. And you're not going to change anybody else's mind that it does exist. So it's kind of like one of those things that if you talk to them, but share your information that you have. But if they don't ask you about it, they're not interested. And I think reading that is important. And I think that stops it from being as polarized, right? So when there's some people that are into politics and some people that aren't, some people into social situations and some people that aren't. And I think if, they come to you and they say, yo, there's something really weird happening. And I just don't feel like something's really off. And you're like, okay, well, what do you notice? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I thought something was like this, but it seemed to change. And you can say, oh, yeah, that's the Mandela effect. Then you can go into it, right?
Right.
But if they're not coming to you, you're basically facing a brick wall with it. Do you understand what I'm
Right.
saying? They're not
Yeah.
going to change. You're not going to change. And you can make people aware of it, like some channels do. But how much are you really pushing them? And how much are they already believe in that, right? So, because if they didn't believe in it, they wouldn't be there, kind of deal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think to stop being polarized from things is to accept that people have a difference of opinion. They can voice their opinion, but you don't have to shove it down someone's throat, right? You can
Right.
actually, if they want to talk about it, you can have a discussion about it. They don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. But your voice doesn't have to be muffled or shut down either. So it's not like you can have your opinion. You know the Mandela effect. I know the Mandela effect is real. You know it's real. There's a lot of people that come on here and know the Mandela effect is real. But it's like, okay, it's been a decade over that, right? Since
Right.
it's almost going on two, right? Depends
Yeah.
on who you're talking to. Some people say it goes back to 2006. Some people say 2009, 2016 for me. But um, you know, it's just like it's out there, and there's enough information out there. So I think you have to think of how does it impact you? You know it happens. You already know it's there. So if other people don't believe it, how is that impacting you? You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
I think you have to come to a place where you just have to come to a place where there's people that will just not ever accept it.
Yes.
And
There are
so,
people that are going to be like, the Mandela effect is just misremembering, which is a pet peeve of mine. Like, don't tell
yeah,
me
I don't
what
like that shit. I don't like that response either. That's some bullshit.
yeah, I definitely don't like that fucking response. That response is a no go. No go for me.
Those are the people that you go, okay, I'm gonna go over here. See you later. Have a good day.
Like, how can you tell me what I remember? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me what I remember. But no, I think it's one of those things. By the way, viewers, lurkers, people in chat, thank you for showing up. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. Ring the little bell because you never know when I'm going live. This was a off the cuff type thing. But I'm usually here on Friday nights, but I might be here during the week too. So just hit the bell and you'll know if I'm live. So really, David, I think to depolarize society, it's being okay with other people not seeing your point of view or agreeing with their point of view.
Right.
I think it's an easy solution. It's just I don't think a lot of people want to do that.
Right.
You can give them water, but you can't make them drink type thing.
Right.
I want to try. I had all intentions of trying these videos out. Do you want to stay up here while we play this? While I play this video, it's about the parallel universes. I tried to play it last week. If it shuts StreamYard down, then I'll just move to my phone. I'm not going to keep doing what I did last week and keep trying to pull it up. But I'm hoping I can pull it up. I like the video. It's about multiple parallel universes and situations people have been in. Do you want to stay up or do you want to go back and chat? What would you like to do, David?
I'll stay up. There was a Y-Files I just watched actually that I might send you about an interview about UFOs and all kinds of shit about all this.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
yeah, it's really thorough. It's with this dude. I don't know the dude's name, but it's Edgar or not Edgar. But I just watched it, and it's the dude talks about dreams and lucid dreaming, and I was watching it before I got on here. But he covers all these things, kind of parallel realities, the military complex, UFOs, what they are, astral travel, conscious travel, like meditation, all those things.
Did I tell you about the weird? I don't know if I told you guys about the weird movie that I watched with Christopher Walken, which I never knew he did. It was like, the movie on aliens, the what's it, the Encounter of the Fifth Kind or Fourth Kind or some shit like that.
Yeah.
With the people in Alaska having the alien thingy, but it had him in it, and it was the weirdest movie. It was from 1989, and it was based on a true story or true accounts or however you want to call it. But he basically befriended the aliens and kind of went and had like partied with them. It was very weird. Very,
That
very
is weird.
strange. He was partying with the aliens. So if you want to check out the Christopher Walken movie from 1989, it's definitely a different take on what I've seen from alien movies in the past. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was like he's like wearing a party hat and he's up there and laughing and joking around with them. And I thought it was just very strange because it was definitely a different take. Orname, how are you doing? Just saw you live a couple times today. So, hey guys, if y'all don't know Ormane, he goes live a couple times, maybe once a week, twice a week, something like that. He does beautiful stained glass stuff, and I think
cool.
he's working on a stained glass eagle, and he puts up every step of it. But he also does beautiful music as well. So go to his channel, like, subscribe, check it out. Very much an artist. But let's check out this video of parallel universes. Yay. Sound fun?
I was going to add one more thing. Did you ever hear the Red Elk prophecies?
No, what are they?
They were from the 90s. I might just send them to you. But he believed there were like 4 other beings here. He was a native like shaman dude, like a Hioka or something. But he talked about this time, like 20 years ago, and he used to be on Art Bell. But he talked about the lizards. He talked about the grays. He talked about the military bases. He talks about all of it. He talked about Mel's Hole. And I don't know. I might just send you. I've listened to his stuff quite a bit. He talks about our giftings as psychic human beings and the abilities that we can develop if we get in tune with ourselves. But I'll just send it to you sometime.
Yeah, I watch everything that you send to me.
Cool.
I don't know about copyrights, that's why I don't show it on here, but I do watch the stuff that you do send, and I find a lot of it intriguing. It's just that Christopher Walken movie was just a whole different take on the whole alien abduction thing. And it's like I think it might have been a low budget movie. I don't think it was a very popular movie for its time. But it's just, if you want to see Christopher Walken partying with some alien,
right?
It's an interesting watch. But this is. Go ahead. What?
Yeah, I'll just have to check it out. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
There's a lot of weirdness out there in the movie world, but
it was a special weird. Special weird. It was one of those.
There was another one with him years ago where he was a conspiracy theorist dude about how they cloned Jesus.
Oh my God. I actually watched recommended by Renke. So Renke, if you're out there listening, thank you for recommending Replicas. I watched it, liked it, and that's an interesting movie with Keanu Reeves.
Which one?
Replicas.
I've heard of it, I think. I don't know if I saw it.
It's basically where he clones his family.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's interesting, but it was a good watch. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
All right. So can you mute your mic, David? So we
Yep.
can yes, thanks. All right.
The house that lives two lives. The Jameson family home at 1247 Maple Street in Salem, Oregon, exists two realities simultaneously. For most of the time, it's a normal suburban house where current owners Mark and Linda Jameson live with their teenage children. But on random nights throughout the year, the house shifts into an alternate dimension where the previous owners, the Morrison family, about their daily routine. When neighbors began reporting lights and activity in the Jameson house during she termed dimensional bleeding, periods when the house exists simultaneously in multiple realities. During these episodes, which last between 4 and 18 hours, the Morrison family continues their lives as if 1987 never ended, while the Jameson family experiences unexplained temperature changes, electronic malfunctions, and the distinct feeling of being watched by invisible presences. The most unsettling evidence came when researchers discovered that the Morrison family was aging normally in their dimension. Recent footage shows Robert and Susan Morrison as they would appear today if they had lived, complete with gray hair and age-appropriate clothing. Their twin daughters have grown into adults and occasionally bring children of their own to visit their dimensional grandparents. Independent verification came from comparing the security footage to family photographs provided by Morrison relatives. The people in the dimensional bleeding episodes matched perfectly with how the deceased family members would look today, suggesting that their parallel existence had continued uninterrupted in an alternate timeline where the fatal car accident never occurred. The dimensional overlap isn't limited to visual phenomena. Audio recordings capture conversations in which the Morrison family discusses current events. They mention smartphones, social media, and political events that occurred decades after their death, suggesting that their parallel dimension receives information from our timeline. Property records revealed that similar dimensional bleeding events have been reported at other houses where families died unexpectedly. The phenomenon appears to occur when traumatic events create dimensional scars that allow alternate realities to bleed through, showing us glimpses of what might have been if tragedy hadn't intervened. Our own, and that under certain conditions, the barriers between realities become permeable enough for alternate versions of our lives to leak through into our awareness. The future echo forest. Deep in the Olympic National Forest in Washington State.
House thing. I think that's a little crazy. I think it's a little crazy. It's like two different families living in one house, just in different dimensions. And sometimes they leak through to each other. That would freak me the hell out. Like if I had security cameras and there's just somebody going through my doors and windows and carrying groceries in and going about their daily business like they live in my house, I would definitely be freaked out. Might be time to go to a different house. Might be up for sale. But I do have a funny story about tonight. We have a resident ghost, for those who don't know. And the resident ghost decided to play a trick on us tonight. And I asked my husband if he would do the dishes. And jokingly, he said, "What dishes?" And the ghost decided to move the dishes in the sink, telling him, "These dishes." I was like, alrighty then. He was told, those dishes. We'll get back to the fart.
Yet. The phenomenon, documented by the Park Service since 1994, has created a zone where linear time breaks down and multiple timelines converge. Rangers first became aware of the anomaly when hikers began reporting encounters with themselves from tomorrow, meeting their own future selves walking the same trail while wearing different clothes and showing knowledge of events that hadn't yet occurred. These weren't visions or hallucinations. The future selves were solid, interactive, and able to provide specific information about the immediate future. Dr. Michael Chen was hiking the trail in August 2008 when he encountered his future self returning from the summit. The future Chen warned him about a rock slide that would occur 3 hours later at a specific location on the trail. Following his future self's advice, Dr. Chen took an alternate route and later confirmed received warnings, advice, or information from future versions of the specific locations along the trail where electromagnetic readings show unusual dimensional instability. The most extraordinary case involved photographer Lisa Rodriguez, who encountered not just her future self, but an entire group of people she hadn't met yet. Her future self introduced her to individuals. 6 months later, Rodriguez joined a hiking club and met all the people her future self had introduced her to, exactly as predicted. Scientific investigation revealed that the temporal anomalies follow a consistent pattern. Future encounters occur at precise GPS coordinates, where geological surveys show unusual crystalline formations in the bedrock. These natural crystal structures appear to create a resonance effect that destabilizes local spacetime, allowing different temporal states to coexist. The future echo effect isn't limited to human encounters. Hikers report seeing future versions of the forest itself, trails that don't exist yet, new ranger stations under construction, and even future occurs exactly as witnessed. The dimensional leakage appears to show the most probable future timeline for the air encounters has an accuracy rate when verified. After the predicted events, future selves provide information. There demonstrate multiple dates can exist simultaneously. The Olympic Forest Future Echo Zone represents compelling evidence that time isn't linear and that future dimensional states can leak backwards into present experience, allowing us to literally meet ourselves from tomorrow and receive information from timelines that haven't unfolded yet. The medieval overlay. Several city blocks in downtown Prague experience periodic dimensional shifts where the modern city is replaced by its exact medieval counterpart from the 14th century. During these episodes, which last between 30 minutes and several hours, visitors find themselves in a fully functional medieval town, complete with period-appropriate inhabitants, architecture, and technology. The dimensional overlay was first documented in 1995 when tourist Margaret Fleming entered.
I just wanted to touch base on that last one. Could you imagine going into a forest, meeting you from another dimension, and then you basically are introducing yourself to other friends? Like, hey, these are your friends in this dimension. I find it really funny. But we'll get back.
Only to discover that the medieval environment was completely real. The cobblestone streets were authentic stone. The buildings showed genuine wear from centuries of use, and the people spoke Middle Czech and appeared genuinely unaware that they were living in the past. Security cameras positioned around the affected area capture the transition as it occurs, materialize in their place. The transformation follows a specific pattern. Approximately 4 city blocks exist in the 14th century. Dr. Pavel Novas, a historian from Charles University, has documented extensive interactions with the medieval inhabitants during dimensional overlay events. The people are not speak authentic period dialects and react with genuine confusion when presented with modern objects or concepts. The medieval dimensioning includes functioning shops, taverns, and workshops where period-appropriate goods are produced using authentic techniques and materials. Visitors can purchase items crafted by medieval artisans, and chemical analysis confirms that these objects were created using period-appropriate materials and methods that haven't been used for centuries. The most remarkable aspect of the medieval overlay is its historical accuracy. Architectural historians confirm that the buildings match precisely with 14th century Prague, as documented in historical records. Even the population corresponds to census data from that era, with inhabitants whose names and occupations match. Technology ceases to function within the affected area. Cell phones, digital cameras, and electronic devices become inoperable, while the medieval environment operates according to its own physical laws. Visitors report feeling like they've literally traveled back in time rather than visiting a parallel dimension. The dimensional shifts occur without warning, typically during overcast weather conditions, when electromagnetic activity in the area reaches specific threshold levels. Meteorological data shows correlation between dimensional overlay events and atmospheric conditions that mirror historical weather patterns from the medieval period. The Prague medieval overlay provides documented evidence that alternate dimensional versions of historical periods can bleed through into present reality, suggesting that all moments in time might exist simultaneously and become accessible when dimensional barriers weaken. The duplicate city. Residents of Minnesota occasionally wake up to find their city replaced by an alternate version where key historical events unfolded differently. This parallel Duluth exists in a dimension where the 1918 Cloquet fire never occurred, resulting in a dramatically different city layout with buildings, streets, and landmarks that don't exist in our timeline. The dimensional replacement.
This one I find interesting because could you imagine stepping into a universe that 9/11 never happened? No matter what you think of 9/11, could you imagine stepping into a universe where that never happened and the Twin Towers are still there? Or even something more than that, like the gold rush never happened and all that gold is basically there for you. So I think that's pretty cool. David, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm listening.
Yeah. So what do you think of that? Like, hey, you wake up and the gold rush never happened, or 9/11 never happened, and everything's still where it was back then. That'd be crazy.
I think there has to be dimensionalities that exist where those realities exist. Because if you think in terms of the controllers, that's what I call them. And if you listen to Archaics, sometimes he has, I don't listen to him all the time, but I think he has a very accurate historical understanding of our reality. He's a simulation theorist. He believes in the simulacrum. But he has the closest on YouTube to our true history and how everything was orchestrated and created over time, over and over again, I guess, resets. There was another channel, Brian Austin Lambert 33 and Mia's new pair of glasses. Now, I don't know how sincere Brian Austin Lambert 33 was, but I think he was pretty sincere. He was a flat earther, but he believed in an IMCO. And that basically every couple, I think 140 years, there's an IMCO, meaning an electromagnetic changeover to reality. And I think he's accurate in this. I think that it did happen. It just didn't happen in the way that we thought. So if there is constant energy that is circulating through all consciousness and all of the grids that exist within the reality here, there's got to be a reality above 9/11 and above what the controllers and the people who plan these things out and orchestrate to create the societal splits. Because if you think about 9/11, 9/11 was a split in our reality. There was before 9/11 and after. There was a societal structure that existed that changed forever permanently in our reality because of 9/11. And if that would have never happened, that societal structure wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have been a societal reset in the way that it is now. And then COVID is another one. But and then I think it was in like 2008 or 2009, the financial collapse, because like there was a GM plant here in Indianapolis that got shut down, and that changed the economy here in Indianapolis massively. Like that GM plant was one of the most like prevalent places for people's income in Indiana. When that shut down, when that went away, it did affect the societal structure. So I think that there has to be worlds or realms where 9/11, even though they planned it out like 30 years ago, 30 years before it happened, I think it was about, if you trace all the hints and you trace all the information that they were conveying through all the TV and predictive programming and how they were telling us what they were doing, because they told us, that's what they, in the Lucy's world, what they call the Lucy's, these people who do all this and orchestrate this so they can control us. In their belief structure, they have to tell us what they're going to do. So they have to convey it in a way through media and through television and through all of it, so it alleviates them of their karma.
Oh.
That's real. Like, this is what they believe. These people that were exposed in the Epstein files and all of that, they believe if they convey it, that it alleviates all their karma. So by them revealing that they did a 9/11 prior, which they did do, they hinted at it, they revealed it to the public, they told us they were going to do it, and then they did it. That's real. I mean, it's not conspiracy. It's really how this world operates, through what I call the controllers and the people that are behind all of this. So if there were enough people, and there was a thing called the Azusa Street Revival in Christianity in like 1919, and this is back in California. What collapsed the revival, because what it did was unite people, not based on they all had different beliefs, but they all started to unite and create enough energy on earth to put societal construct in a different direction, right? What divided and collapsed that movement was division over race. So I think what happens is these people know how to do this. They're very organized. They're very united in their cause. That's why we hear about, like, they did the rapture thing and all the predictive programming of the apocalypse, and all of those things are conveyed to us so that we take all our focus and our energy into something that isn't true. And when you have enough people putting all their energy and all their time and all that into things that are not actually going to take place, we, as those groups that all do this collectively, and they use religion, they love to use the religions. We create the outcomes. We create the splits.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to finish this before my computer goes out, because then I'll switch to the phone. We can talk more, okay? But let me finish.
Yeah, it's all good.
Thanks, hon.
Awesome. I'll mute and we'll continue.
was first noticed in 2001 when longtime resident Frank Morrison went to visit his childhood neighborhood and found streets that had been destroyed in the 1918 fire were not only intact, but showed continuous habitation for over a century. The buildings displayed architectural evolution and aging that would have occurred if they had never been destroyed. During these dimensional episodes, Duluth exists simultaneously in two realities. Visitors can walk down streets that were destroyed decades ago, enter buildings that never survived the historical fire, and meet alternate versions of residents whose families took different paths in the parallel timeline where the disaster never occurred. Dr. Rebecca Foster, an urban planner from the University of Minnesota, mapped the differences between the two versions of Duluth and found that the alternate city contains over 300 buildings that don't exist in our reality. The parallel dimension shows how the city would have developed without the traumatic disruption of the massive fire that reshaped its growth pattern. The alternate Duluth isn't just structurally different. Its inhabitants have lived completely different lives. Families that died in the fire in our timeline are alive and thriving in the parallel dimension. Businesses that were destroyed have continued operating for over a century, showing natural evolution and growth that would have occurred without the historical catastrophe. Photographs taken during dimensional replacement events show the same physical locations displaying entirely different architecture and development patterns. The parallel city appears more prosperous and densely populated, suggesting that avoiding the historical disaster led to accelerated economic growth and urban development. The most unsettling aspect of the duplicate city phenomenon is that both versions feel equally real and solid to visitors. People can interact normally with inhabitants of the parallel Duluth, purchase goods from businesses that don't exist in our timeline, and even stay overnight in hotels that were destroyed in our reality's 1918 fire. Historical research confirmed that the parallel dimension shows precise accuracy in its alternative development. Urban planners have verified that the alternate city's growth patterns match exactly what architectural historians predicted Duluth would have looked like without the fire's devastating impact. The duplicate city episodes typically last 36 hours before reality shifts back to our familiar version of Duluth. However, visitors sometimes return with the objects purchased in the parallel dimension, items that continue to exist in our reality even after the dimensional replacement ends. The backwards physics zone. In a remote section of Montana's Glacier National Park, hikers encounter an area where the fundamental laws of physics operate in reverse, suggesting that a dimension with opposite physical properties is leaked into our reality. Water flows upward, objects fall toward the sky, and fire freezes while ice burns in a zone where cause and effect have been inverted. Park Ranger Tom Bradley first documented the backwards physics phenomenon in 2006, when he observed a stream flowing uphill in a steady, consistent manner that violated gravity. Initial investigations revealed that the anomaly affected a roughly circular area with a diameter of approximately 200 meters, where normal physical laws were replaced by their exact opposites. Within the reversed physics zone, dropped objects accelerate upward at the same rate they would normally fall downward. Visitors must secure themselves to prevent floating away into the sky, while rocks and debris drift upward in perfect reverse of normal gravitational behavior. The effect is precise and consistent, suggesting that gravitational force hasn't disappeared, but has been inverted. Dr. Lisa Chang, a theoretical physicist from MIT, conducted extensive testing within the anomaly and found that all fundamental forces operate in reverse. Electromagnetic fields repel rather than attract. Thermal energy flows from cold to hot objects. And even time perception becomes distorted as cause and effect relationships invert. The most extraordinary discovery was that entropy decreases within the backwards physics zone. Broken objects spontaneously repair themselves, mixed substances separate into component parts, and complex systems become more organized over time rather than degrading. The area appears to be governed by physical laws from a universe where the arrow of time points in the opposite direction. Independent verification by multiple research teams confirmed that the reversed physics effects are real and measurable. Water consistently flows upward, fire produces cold instead of heat, and batteries discharge energy back into themselves, while electrical devices run backwards to their previous states. The boundaries of the backwards physics zone are sharply defined, with normal physics resuming immediately outside the affected area. Visitors can experience the transition by extending their arm across the boundary, feeling normal gravity on one hand, while the other experiences reverse gravitational force. Military and aerospace researchers have expressed intense interest in the backwards physics zone for its potential applications in propulsion and energy systems. However, the anomaly appears to be expanding slowly, growing approximately 1 meter per year in all directions. Local indigenous tribal elders report that their ancestors were aware of the area and considered it a gateway to the upside-down world, where all natural laws were reversed. Their oral traditions describe the zone as a place where spirits from an opposite reality could enter our world. The backwards physics zone represents documented evidence that dimensions with inverted physical laws can overlap with our reality, creating pockets where the fundamental forces that govern our universe operate according to completely different principles. The probability leak. In the small town of Millfield, Ohio, residents experience random probability distortions, where highly unlikely events become commonplace, while normal everyday occurrences become impossible. During these episodes, which locals call luck storms, the fundamental laws of chance break down as probability patterns from an alternate dimension bleed into our reality. The phenomenon was first scientifically documented in 2004 when statistician Dr. Robert Kim investigated reports of impossible coincidences occurring with supernatural frequency. During a single week, 17 residents won various lottery prizes, 3 people found lost family members after decades of separation, and 5 couples met their future spouses in improbable circumstances that defied statistical analysis. Probability distortions in Millfield follow inverse patterns where rare events occur multiple times, while common events become extraordinarily unlikely. During peak probability storms, residents report that their car keys consistently appear in impossible locations, traffic lights malfunction in synchronized patterns, and random events cluster in ways that violate the laws of statistical distribution. Dr. Kim's research team documented probability patterns that shouldn't exist in normal reality. Coin flips during distortion events produce heads or tails, in sequences that match complex mathematical patterns rather than random distribution. Card shuffles result in mathematically perfect arrangements, and dice consistently roll numbers that correspond to significant dates or personal information. The most extraordinary aspect of Millfield's probability leaks is their predictive nature. Unlikely events that occur during storms often foreshadow future developments that later unfold exactly as suggested by the initial, improbable coincidences. Residents learn to interpret probability distortions as glimpses of alternate timelines where different choices and chances create different outcomes. Medical researcher Dr. Sarah Wilson found that during probability storms, genetic mutations occur at rates 10,000 times higher than normal, but these mutations are consistently beneficial rather than harmful. People develop enhanced abilities, chronic conditions spontaneously resolve, and DNA repairs itself in ways that violate biological probability. The probability distortions appear to originate from dimensional overlap, with a reality where chance operates according to different mathematical principles. In the alternate dimension, improbable events have high probability while routine occurrences are rare, creating an inverse probability universe that occasionally bleeds through into our timeline. Weather monitoring equipment reveals correlation between probability storms and specific atmospheric conditions involving electromagnetic field fluctuations that occur in patterns matching advanced mathematical sequences. The distortions intensify during periods when local magnetic fields align with geometric configurations that appear to thin dimensional barriers. Millfield residents have learned to navigate probability storms by understanding that during these events, following hunches and intuition leads to positive outcomes, while logical planning produces unexpected obstacles. The town has become a natural laboratory for studying how alternate probability dimensions can influence random events in our reality. The living architecture. Buildings in downtown Seattle occasionally transform into biological entities with nervous systems, circulatory systems, and apparent consciousness, suggesting that a dimension where architecture is alive has begun merging with our reality. During these episodes, structures breathe, react to stimuli, and communicate with inhabitants through changes in temperature, lighting, and acoustic properties. The phenomenon was first documented in 2010 when maintenance workers at the Columbia Center noticed that the building's HVAC system was responding to human emotions rather than programmed settings. Security footage revealed walls that appeared to pulse rhythmically, elevator cars that moved according to passengers' unspoken destinations, and lighting systems that adjusted automatically to create optimal psychological environments. Dr. Amanda Foster, a biomechanical engineer from the University of Washington, investigated the living architecture phenomenon and found that affected buildings display characteristics of biological organisms. Thermal imaging reveals circulation patterns detects rhythmic sounds similar to heartbeats, and electromagnetic sensors record neural activity patterns within the structural frameworks. The biological transformation appears complete rather than superficial. Structural analysis reveals that steel and concrete components have developed cellular properties while maintaining their architectural strength. Building materials show signs of metabolism, growth, and self-repair that operate through mechanisms.
All right, that was really weird. The building had an ear. Did anyone see the building have an ear? Alrighty then, that would really trip me out. That would definitely trip me out. Cats. First, let's say hi to Peanut and Gerald. Gerald, thank you for your compliment. I'm really trying hard with this. I'm newer to YouTube, so I'm doing little by little. Cat wants to know where Gilligan's Island is. But Peanut's in here, and I want to say Peanut has live streams Saturday. I think you're doing the Price is Right this week. So if you want to go have a little fun, watch skits, and play some games, head over to the Nut House. Nut, you can put your link in the chat if you want, and we'll get back.
That don't exist in conventional construction materials. During active phases, the living buildings demonstrate apparent intelligence and emotional responses. They adjust internal environments to optimize comfort for specific individuals, respond to spoken requests for temperature or lighting changes, and appear to learn occupants' preferences over time. Some buildings show signs of mood variations, becoming grumpy during bad weather or excited during celebrations. Independent verification came from multiple engineering firms that confirmed the biological transformation of building materials. Steel beams show cellular structures that pulse with nutritional transport. Concrete walls display neural networks that conduct electrical signals. And glass surfaces demonstrate properties of permeable membranes that regulate environmental exchange. The most remarkable aspect of living architecture is its enhanced functionality. Biological buildings require less energy, maintain optimal environmental conditions automatically, and demonstrate self-healing properties that repair structural damage without human intervention. They appear to be more efficient and sustainable than conventional architecture. Communication with the living buildings occurs through biofeedback rather than traditional interfaces. Occupants report sensing the building's mood and being able to influence its behavior through focused intention and emotional states. The structures appear to develop relationships with regular inhabitants, responding more favorably to familiar people. The architectural transformation appears to be spreading slowly through downtown Seattle, with adjacent buildings gradually developing biological properties through contact with already transformed structures. The phenomenon suggests that an entire dimension where organic architecture is the norm may be gradually merging with our reality. The Emotion Physics Laboratory. At the Stanford Research Institute, scientists discovered a laboratory where emotions directly affect physical reality, suggesting dimensional bleed-through from a universe where consciousness and matter interact according to different physical laws. In this contaminated space, human feelings can alter temperature. 2007, when researcher Dr. Patricia Wong found that her experimental results varied dramatically, depending on her emotional state while conducting experiments. Further investigation revealed that the entire laboratory had become a zone where psychological conditions directly influence physical phenomena in measurable ways. Within the affected laboratory, negative emotions consistently produce specific physical effects. Anger increases local temperature and electromagnetic field strength. Sadness causes objects to become heavier and fall faster. And fear creates electrical interference that disrupts sensitive equipment. Positive emotions produce opposite effects, with joy decreasing gravity and love increasing the coherence of laser beams. Dr. Wong's team documented over 2,000 experiments confirming that emotional states can be measured through their direct physical manifestations. Specialized instruments detect emotional fields that extend several meters from individuals and can be mapped with the same precision as electromagnetic phenomena. The emotional fields appear to operate as a fifth fundamental force that governs matter behavior in the contaminated space. The most extraordinary discovery was that groups of people can combine their emotional states to create powerful collective effects. Teams experiencing synchronized emotions can levitate objects, alter the rate of radioactive decay, and even influence the probability of quantum measurement outcomes. The laboratory has become a natural testing ground for consciousness-based physics. Independent verification by multiple research institutions confirmed that the emotion physics effects are real, measurable, and consistent. The phenomenon appears to result from dimensional overlap, with a reality where consciousness is a fundamental force that directly shapes material reality, rather than emerging from complex neural activity. Medical monitoring revealed that people working in the emotion enhance ability to control their own psychological conditions. Extended exposure appears to create changes in neural relationships between consciousness and physics. Security protocols require emotional stability, monitoring for all personnel, as extreme psychological states can create dangerous physical effects, including spontaneous combustion, localized gravitational anomalies, and electromagnetic pulses that damage sensitive equipment throughout the facility. The time dilation neighborhood. Residents of Maplewood Drive in suburban Denver experience random time-dilation events where houses with realities where time flows at different rates. During these episodes, families aging at dramatically different speeds live next door to each other in the same physical space. The temporal anomaly was first documented in 2012.
So I find the last one very interesting because, okay. All right, there we go. So I think the last one's really interesting because we see that a lot when it comes to plants and gardening and stuff. You talk to your plants, you have conversation with your plants. They actually grow better with positivity than with negativity. There have been several studies on the vibrations that music brings to different objects and how it reacts. And just like the one video I showed months ago with the trees actually singing when they're hooked up to amplifiers and stuff like that, and a guitar is played, there is truth to that. But I never thought it would go into inanimate, non-living objects like steel walls. But I think that's very interesting that it does. Trouble in the chat. The nut house. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it in there, nut. Right? Ghostbusters, Gerald. I agree. It kind of gives a new definition to the saying mind over matter, right? Maybe that's where it actually comes from. I don't know. It's weird. Bizarro. We'll get back to it. Let's see. These two houses and people are aging differently. Ooh. All right.
Appeared to be aging rapidly, while the Miller family seemed frozen in time. Over the course of what felt like several months to outside observers, the Johnsons aged approximately.
I'm just saying, I want to be the one that doesn't age. I would go live in that house. I'd be like, your house for sale? Let's go over to that one. But anyway.
Approximately 5 years, while the Millers experienced only a few days of subjective time. Dr. Angela Rodriguez, a temporal physicist from the University of Colorado. Some houses exist in accelerated time fields where minutes pass like hours, while others slow time to near stasis, where days feel like minutes. The time dilation affects during specific weather conditions when atmospheric pressure and electromagnetic activity reach threshold levels that appear to destabilize the system meteorologically between systems that create dimensional boundaries. Residents affected by time dilation report that life continues normally within their temporal field, but interaction with neighbors becomes increasingly difficult as time differential increases. Conversations become impossible when one family experiences even while living side by side. Children in slow time zones watch their friends in normal time zones grow up and graduate while they experience of subjective time.
Oh, you gotta love StreamYard. StreamYard's finest right there. I gotta love the StreamYard. Anyway, what'd you guys think? David, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So what'd you think? Would you want to be in the house that ages quickly or the one that doesn't age at all?
Well, I'd say the one that probably doesn't age at all.
Yeah, I would say that too. I would definitely.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, do you know about the rice experiments?
No, why don't you tell us?
Okay, there was also another one with water by a Chinese dude, I think, or a Japanese dude, about 20 years ago or 15 years ago. But the rice experiments are similar. So the with the water experiments, I think it was water and snow or something like that. But like basically the words that people, so if you he basically um zoomed in or I think what it, like used a microscope on these on the patterns that are created with words within the water or within the snow or something like that. And words that like hate, the word hate actually distorts everything. So the more that word was used, it distorted the pattern and made it disgusting. But the words like love and happiness and hope and goodness and um like all the more uplifting words created beautiful geometric patterns. But the words hate and the words disgusting and all the degrading words that people can use, kind of like what a lot of religious people do, like telling people you're going to hell. That's evil. That actually distorts a human body. But basically with the rice experiments is they took three things of rice, and one of them they ignored, one of them they said positive, like uplifting affirmations to it, like, we love you, rice, we're so happy you're here, we're so grateful and thankful that you exist, rice, and like talking to your rice like it was the best thing in the world. And then the other rice they ignored completely, and then the third one they degraded it every day and talked to it horribly. The one that was talked to horribly molded quicker and started to become more disgusting quicker. The one that was ignored took a little bit longer, but it started to atrophy and like become like moldy. And then the one that was uplifted, it took a lot longer. So it lived longer. Like it stayed in better condition. Like it stayed in a better condition of being edible. But with the rice, with the water experiments, the geometric patterns that were created out of uplifting words were very intricate, but the distorted, like if you were degrading it and using degrading language, it would distort and twist. So I think that, I heard this thing from this dude a couple years ago who was a ghost hunter and was now I guess a Christian or whatever, but his testimony or whatever is what he experienced is he was a ghost hunter. He had a TV show. He had all this stuff, and he said that
Real quick, hon. Jennifer has a question. She wanted to know if it was dry rice. Like, was it a grain of dry rice?
I believe it. It might have been cooked. I'm not sure. You have to look it up. But it's all over YouTube. You can find it. There's different people that did it. I believe they were cooked, but I'm not sure. I think they were cooked already, so you'll have to look it up. But I believe they were not dry rice. I don't know. I do not know. I cannot. I don't know. But yeah, look it up because there's people that did it all over YouTube for a couple of years ago. but you basically label one love, one hate, and one just ignore. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
pretty wild. Yeah,
That sounds wild.
it is wild. So you can try it. Anybody can do it. So you take three separate ones. You put one away from the others. You put another on another table and another on another table. See what happens. People did it, and it's pretty true to what. It's pretty crazy what happens.
I think that would be a good experiment for kids and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
To see how their words affect things. So you were talking about the paranormal. I wanted to say one thing with the paranormal investigators. I've watched a lot of them, and a lot of them, because they've done that so much, they have health problems. Unfortunately,
Really?
yeah. Unfortunately, Zach Sudeikis, I think he's done with ghost hunting.
I think I've heard of him.
He actually got attacked, and he then got a eye problem that people normally just don't get. So he had gotten attacked several times, and then the one ghost hunter that was messing with the Annabelle doll, and when they were taking it on tour and they took it to Gettysburg, he passed away in the hotel room during the tour.
He what?
He passed away.
Which one? The dude who bought it recently?
No, not the one who. Well, it wasn't actually bought. The museum is leased by the daughter of Lorraine and Ed Warren, and Matt Rife and another guy, I forget his name. They lease it. They didn't buy it, but there was a ghost hunter that was, I guess, hired, or however it came out to be. He was taking the Annabelle doll on a tour throughout the United States, and they got to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and he died in his hotel room in Gettysburg,
What?
Pennsylvania. Yeah, he had a heart attack.
Why is that one so? Why can't they remove anything from it? Why is it so? What is the history there with that one? Because I've heard plenty of weird stories are circulating around that one.
I don't know. I remember when it was in the news back in the 80s. I do remember that because it was. I'll just tell you, like, honestly, I had a Raggedy Ann and Andy doll, which is what the original Annabelle is. It's a
Right.
Raggedy Andy or Annie doll, whatever. But those two dolls, Raggedy Ann, my mother threw them right out. Like, she threw them out with the quickness. So, and with the quickness, and she really liked them too, but she threw them out with the quickness. But I don't know what the history is. I can go by the Conjuring movies and stuff like that, and the Annabelle movies. But from my understanding of it, it's a demonic attachment that if they release it, where are they going to release it to? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If they try to take it out of the doll, where's it going to go? You know, it could go somewhere else. So from what I understand, the reason why it's locked in the glass and blessed every week, which to my knowledge, the whole museum is blessed every week for a reason, to keep demonic shit under control there, because they have a lot of it in the museum. So I don't know. I don't think anybody knows specifically, but according to the movies, the Annabelle doll was actually summoned by the doll maker who was trying to bring back his daughter.
Oh, really?
That's the gist I get of it. That his daughter died in some accident, and then he tried to bring her back, but he didn't bring her back. He brought something else back instead.
See, that's why I think this world has gotten so screwed up, because people have messed with, I mean, you have CERN, but you have, I noticed that there was, I mean, like when I was young, I knew there was a spiritual world. I knew that we lived in some kind of, I had some weird spiritual experiences with ghost hunting and things like that. And I knew Satanist friends and I knew people on the dark side of things, but like, you know, I think that too many people within the generation between the early, like, that were born between 2000 and 2000, like 10, because of the movies and like even the 90s movies, people became too interested in that side. And
Well,
because the Christian church is so devoid of spirituality, like I've met druids and all kinds of people that were so condemned by the church, like throughout my life, that the church just condemns them, man, and just tears into their lives and tells them they're spawns of Satan and all kinds of crap.
well, see, the thing is, right? I talked about cycles in one of my other live streams. So if you haven't checked out that, check that out. It's still up. So we're in a 120-year cycle. So we're repeating the same thing we've already done throughout history. It's just whether or not we take a different path or we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And what have we learned from other countries as well? I'm not saying it's just a country thing, it's a world thing, right? So in the 1920s, I guess you could say spirituality was highly regarded. Seances and stuff like that were done on a routine basis. So what happened was we just repeated that. We just went back over that. Like even the president, I forget his name, but the one that did, his wife did the seances in the White House. And since that, weird shit happens there. And that was another occasion where his son died in a carriage accident back in the day. His son basically was ran over by a carriage and died, and the wife couldn't handle it. So she asked these spiritualists to come to the White House, and she did seances. Well, when you do stuff like that, you don't know what you're bringing. You know what it says it is, but that doesn't mean it's what it is. And
well,
I think
it's just like Ouija boards. You don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, you don't know when you stick your nose through the veil, so to speak. You don't know what you're pulling out. And yeah, I know Gerald Ozzy's son Jack did a lot of ghost hunting too, and has actually had a good show. He really did. He had a good show. But Zach Sudeikis in particular, he took it one step further. He was taking in haunted objects and possessed objects.
Who was this dude?
I think Gerald, if I'm right, he was the guy in Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
Yeah, he did Ghost. He did many seasons, and I think they're still going on now. I think that's the only ghost hunter show that's really going on now. But I think it's Ghost Adventures or something like that. He was the main person in that, and he's gotten attacked a lot on that show. But also, he opened up a haunted museum where he takes haunted and demonic items. It's his hobby to collect these things, and he had a show about that too. And then the last that I know that he did, as far as documentaries go, ghost hunting documentaries, was when he lost his sight. His sight went.
Right.
And then I don't know if he does anything else now, because that's the last thing I've seen of him. But and his haunted museum show, that kind of went to the wayside before that happened, before that documentary aired. But a lot of people in that house were attacked spiritually.
Right.
But when you do these things, it's like you kind of have to expect it. I'm a psychic.
Right.
I can talk to spirits. I do a whole bunch of shit. I see past, present, and future. But I'm also selective. I don't go looking for certain things. I don't do seances. I don't do Ouija boards. I don't do tarot cards. I don't do any of that stuff. Like, I stay away from the darker side of it. But there's some people that the curiosity just gets them more and more. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can never have
Right.
enough. Like a high. Like when you do a drug and you're reaching for that second high or that higher way to go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they get on that high for the ghost hunting thing, and then they just don't stop, but it will stop them.
Right.
It'll stop them in their tracks. Like, there was so much that happened in that last documentary that he did, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, why would you even go in there? Like, why? Like, I think the first thing they showed when about and there was a movie based on it as well. He did the documentary because he bought the house. He bought the house. He didn't just go investigate it. He bought it. And in the research back to it, it says there was oil dripping from the shades. Okay, there's oil coming off of the mini blinds or whatever. Yeah, that's not a house I'm going to walk my ass into. Like, that's not something I'm going to do. Like,
Right.
you got to look for the signs. Enough is enough. Like, you got to just say, okay, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we don't need to go that route. Maybe we don't have to watch the oil drip off the shades in person, right? Maybe we can just
Right.
believe it and just be like, because they had pictures of it and everything. It was about this family. I believe it was in Chicago or Cincinnati, if anybody heard this story, but it's up there with the Conjuring house. It's up there with Amityville, that they all got possessed and eventually had to leave. And then the house just sat there and nobody lived in it. Nobody went in it except for like people, homeless people and stuff like that. When he bought it, he actually locked himself in the house and boarded up all the windows and all the doors. Now, to me, that's asking for it. Like, why do you have to go board up the windows and doors? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
The fire, like, yes, theatrics, I think part of it was, but also, like, why do you have to go that far with it? Like, you can't just be like, okay, they had plenty of EVPs, EMF, like, they had plenty of off the chart things, plus everything that had happened in that house that was documented. I think there were 2 kids that lived in that house, the mother and the grandmother, if I remember correctly. And the one kid started walking up the wall backwards. Like, I don't need to go chase after that. That's not
Right.
something right? Right. I can be like, yeah, no, I can pass on that one. So I think it's like what happened with all these, ghost hunters is that it stopped them. It was not that they stopped. It stopped them, whether it's Zach Sudeikis or the guy that unfortunately passed away in Gettysburg or whatever. And I think if you dive too much into it and it takes over, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Then you kind of get what you're looking for, but then not in the way you're looking for it.
Right.
And in especially 1920s, where the seances were going on, and people were pulling spiritual, and it was less religion and more spirituality at that time, and things were definitely going on in bad ways. And I think it's just a thing that comes around. I think it's a cycle, whether we break it or not. I don't know when you were born, but I know a lot of people that lived through the 80s as kids or were born in the 80s really had a lot of paranormal experiences. It was like, what the hell? Were we the generation? Like, was there?
Well, I know I was born in 81. So when, I had a ton growing up. And I was put on Ritalin, which my whole generation was. But I think that shut down our spiritual and psychic abilities to develop, because what that drug did was basically wire our brains to become addicted to whatever. It wired my generation's brains to go to an outside substance to regulate your emotional development. So instead of us learning, because we were raised by boomers, or we were raised by boomers. We were the feral generation, right? I'm pretty much a Gen X more than millennial, but I understand like both sides of it. But I didn't come home until the lights were out in my neighborhood. My parents never knew where I was all day long. Like, they didn't really know. They knew, but they didn't, because we were where we said we were, but we weren't always where we said we were. I grew up in a time where we could do whatever we wanted, whenever. And
I completely agree with that. But I still think that a lot of that generation, born in the 70s, born in the 80s, kids throughout the 80s, whatever you want to call it, whether it's Gen X or early millennials, they definitely have, on multitude levels, I've heard of people having paranormal activity in their homes, or noticing things, or being just things happening. And yes, Jennifer is correct. That documentary was called The Hell House, and it didn't just attack Jared, or what's it? I forget his name, but it attacked multiple people. It even attacked a priest. So, like, there are just some things, and I can understand Gerald like wanting concrete proof of it, but there's just something I'm not chasing after. Like,
right.
I can believe you or not believe you. I'm just not chasing after the whole when there's oil leaking from the shades.
Well, my generation had movies like The Devil's Advocate and The Craft.
Yeah.
They were pretty much telling us. They were pretty much saying, hey, by the way, this is what the world is. Like, this is what it really is. And then the Epstein files prove that. They pretty much showed us, hey, go to the dark side. Look, it's okay. It'll be great. You'll get powers. You know what I mean? The Craft was like it for all the women. I watched it and I was like, dude, this shit's wild. Like, in Practical Magic and all the other movies that they had freaking targeted people with.
Yeah, Jennifer said we had The Exorcist. Yeah, we did, Jennifer. We had The Exorcist. Listen, I watched Damien the Exorcist, the whole 9 yards. I watched all those movies. But honestly, like, it does pull you in. You kind of get, just like anything else, it becomes like an addiction. You know what I'm saying? When you're watching too much of it and that kind of shit. But I still am not looking for, if the kid walked up the wall backwards, I'm not going into that house. I'm cool with that.
Right.
Okay, right? There's some things in this life I just don't need the concrete proof on. I'm going to say,
right.
It doesn't mean I'm going to be like, oh yeah, definitely everything that people say they witness supernaturally is actual supernatural. But I'm going to say, yeah, dude's walking up the wall in a hospital backwards. Yeah, I don't need to see what caused that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't egg me to go on.
Yeah, you don't need to investigate that. That's when you go, okay, I'm going to go over here and go out the other way. They can, you know. I don't need to be whatever these weird movies where they're like all Catholic and fighting the devil or whatever. You know,
Gerald said poltergeist. Yeah, no, with the poltergeist too. If my little kid's staring at the TV and it's all like white snow type shit, yeah, we're getting rid of the TV. Like we're getting rid of the whole TV. I understand that wasn't the problem in poltergeist, but we're gonna just move. How about that one? We'll move. I do have three ghosts that are attached to me and have been attached to me for a while. One from birth, and the other two I picked up in 2020 and 2023. But I also have a resident ghost that I can't communicate with, refuses to communicate in any type of way. Doesn't mean me any harm. No, it doesn't. It's just here. This used to be farming land, so I don't know who the hell it could be. It's a new house, so it doesn't have to do with the house, but they follow me wherever I go. It's if I choose to interact with them. But you can ignore them and they will go away. You can do that.
Why? It's why I have a friend who I want to get on here because she talks about all this. She's like you. I've known her since high school, and she's trying to deal with what we're living in right now by herself. As best she can, you know, she's out in Colorado, but I was like, get on Si's thing sometime and talk. Like, they'll get you, you know. She has similar giftings to you, but she doesn't do tarot or any of that, you know, like
I don't do tarot.
But yeah, we did. I mean, throughout my entire youth, I had spiritual experiences, and I knew Wiccans, and like the Satanist side of it is just fucked up. And I was raised in a Christian home, but I had dark experiences there too. Like I had a dream when I was 12, where I escaped my parents' home. Like that it was a form of hell. It didn't literally mean it was hell. But my adopted dad had a horrible dream or nightmare when he was on a bunch of pharmaceuticals for his nose surgery or something, where he was, you know, seeing like he was being dragged to hell or something. But I don't, you know, I was adopted, so I wasn't their blood, but I just think that, you know, whatever, and I was told this too, is they try, whatever these beings are, these archons or whatever this constructed reality is they try and find out what we're afraid of.
Right.
So if they can keep us in fear, then they can keep us from taking our power back as human beings and becoming truly who we are. And I think in my experience, because I've seen Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons are ran by Freemasons. They don't know it, but they are.
But I think
it's not like all the Freemasons are horrible people. It just, that's what Mormonism is.
I think,
what's that?
I think no matter what your religion is, no matter just being a human being, you have a light within you and they're attracted to that. And it doesn't mean all ghosts are nefarious. It just means that some maybe were demonic beings attached to things, whereas ghosts, spirit stuff like that, they attach to the person. So if you're feeling something around you, most likely it's not nefarious. Like, to come across nefarious thing isn't the majority of the time. It's the minority.
Well, I think a demon and a ghost are totally different.
Yeah. Demonic stuff, what I'm saying is demonic stuff isn't as frequent as
Right.
spiritual ghosts and stuff like that, spirits and stuff like that. They're more
Right.
likely, there's more of them than they are demons.
Oh yeah.
All right, I have to change devices. So can you guys just give me a minute? Don't go anywhere. I will be back. But if I stay on here, my computer's going to die and I'm going to lose you guys, and I don't want to do that. So just give me a minute. David, I'm going to drop you down for a minute.
Cool.
And then I'll pick you back up. And guys, just hold on for a second and make it a little wonky. It doesn't transition very well. But I'm going to try my hardest to do this in an easy manner. Alrighty. Say alrighty then. Alrighty then. And I put David down to in the back because it winds up kicking people off when I do this sometimes. So can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, I
Just
can hear
let
you.
me know. Okay. Just making sure because I'm on the headset now. So, all right. So, what were we talking about? Yeah. Demonic things like attached to things and ghost spirits attached to people. And that's why you
Right.
can't leave the house. Like, going from one house to another isn't going to make a difference. But that hell house that I was talking about with Zach Sudeikis, who it actually almost killed a priest and hurt one of his other crew members and hurt him as well. That's the
Right.
house. That's a demonic thing. So I wouldn't go looking into that. Like if
Right.
someone, you know what I'm saying? I was saying if someone said I feel something near me or something, I feel something at the bottom of the bed or I feel like something's watching me, then I would go check it out. But if the walls are bleeding and shit like that, and yeah, no, I'm not. No, no, no,
Well,
thank you.
there was a guy, and like I said, he did ghost shows and all that, I guess, in the early 2000s, and I watched his story or whatever, and um he was saying how he used frequency to recreate the room, like the rooms they go to sometimes, and he used frequency and it actually created the activity. So the activity increased depending on the frequency that they released within the atmosphere, the energy they released.
Was
So the
that
more,
was that in the room where the stuff was happening, or was that
yeah,
somewhere where it wasn't happening?
where it was happening. So
Okay.
it increased based on the energy or the frequency that was released in the room. So I guess that would, did you ever watch the Animatrix that came out around the time of the Matrix?
Diana Matrix, is that what you said, or
It was
just the
called the
Matrix?
Animatrix. It was like 6 or 7 stories that were cartoon like stories. And in
No,
one of
I've
them,
never heard of that.
they find a weird phenomenon place, like where a lot of weird phenomenon was happening. And basically these kids were waking up to that they could do all this weird psychic phenomenon, if you will. And in the end, a controlling cleanup crew removed the entire reality. So like they had found a a liminal space, if you want to. That's what they use now, like the back rooms, like the back room story that they created, I think 10 years ago or 9 years ago, or I think it was 8 years ago. These kids created it. The idea that there's these liminal spaces that exist on our earth that are hidden within the entire constructed reality that we live in. So they're like these endless maze, and some people have found where they filmed some of this, but they just created a movie about it. But in the Animatrix one, these kids find this weird space where all this weird phenomenon is happening. And in the end, the controllers of the society or the agents or whatever come in and remove it, and it no longer exists. Like it's revamped and it becomes a business or something. What if, because people have reported in the last 10 years, and when I was listening to Stavely, there were a lot of people that jumped in on this. There were people across the world that were seeing buildings disappear or reappear, or houses being reconstructed overnight.
That's definitely has been a Mandela effect for a while. I don't know if all of you guys know her, but Moonbeam, she had a way, and we all have it. When we go to work, we drive a certain way, we take a certain road, we know that road, we know what's on that road. You do it for years, you just know, right?
You have it
And
memorized.
you have it
completely.
memorized.
Yeah.
And there was a bend in the road that all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere. Now, in order to do that, you have to take all the earth from under it to move the road over, which does not happen overnight. It doesn't. You cannot do it. They can do construction fast, but to move a whole road to make it bend overnight, it just doesn't happen. But that happened to her, and thankfully she was driving carefully enough that it didn't cause an accident or anything. But she said that bend was never there. And
See,
I've heard
that happened to me in 2018. I was in my hometown in Indianapolis, and there was a railroad system that had been there since my childhood. That railroad system, and now I don't know, I think the train would go through there when I was really young, and then it quit going through there, but it just stayed there. So the train no longer went through there, but it was still there for my entire childhood, for all through the 90s, all through the early 2000s. And in 2018, I was sleeping outside next to the Starbucks. And one night, I'm up till like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's in the summer. I go to bed. I wake up the next day within 5 or 6 hours, and the entire railroad is derailed. I'm talking everything is upheavaled, and everything is nicely, like, the whole thing was derailed overnight. Like, there's no way a construction crew came in there in 5 hours while I was sleeping and derailed the entire system. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And now it's a walking path. So it got derailed overnight, and now it's covered up with a walking path. So within, like 5 hours, it doesn't take 5 hours. It takes days to do that. So whatever this constructed reality is, and whatever was capable of doing that, it's very strange. But I talked to another dude out in Idaho a couple months ago, like 6-7 months ago, and he knew a dude who would drive to work every day, and he knew a building that he would pass every day for work for years. The building disappeared overnight. Like, it was there, and then the next day it was gone. So it's like this reality gets reconstructed by something, or shifted, or I mean, it's like they're terraforming everything. But the town that I'm in right now is very like, it has remnants of the old world. I found Beam Me Up Scotty here. I found the old Lord's Prayer here. I found old Ford logos here. And a couple other things. So I think there's towns across the United States that are still in the old reality before this happened. At least that's what I can.
There is, like I said, that was a big Mandela effect with, things just peering up out of nowhere and disappearing and reappearing, and a bunch of stuff was happening. But you have to look at it like, okay, and I think that's where the simulator theory came from, which I'm not a big fan of the simulator theory, but I really think that my thing is, I think we moved, Earth moved, and another Earth came. Like, I think we switched Earths or something, or switched positions, or even,
Well, the native prophecies back in the 80s, 90s, and 70s, and I think 60s, they spoke about this time. If you follow a lot of native prophecies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, a lot of those voices were saying this, that there would be a time on Earth where everything would be backwards, upside down, flipped all around. New animals would appear on Earth. Like, there would be a mass spiritual reconstruction of reality.
well,
And
a
that
lot of
people,
things and a lot of prophets said that. Even like, I really kind of go towards Nostradamus the most, and some Newton's stuff as well, but mostly Nostradamus, because they said, there was a new documentary that came out about Nostradamus, and they were like, he didn't see much after the year 2012 or 2020. I forget which one it was. And I'm like, yeah, because we're going through the same thing over and over again. We're in the loop. We're in a 120-year loop that's going to bring us right where doing the same shit we've already done. And if you know history, then you know that we're going through a loop. But because certain peoples want to control stuff, history has been slowly deleting itself, and kids aren't learning true history. They're learning everything else but true history. And a lot of Gen Xers weren't as much into history. Wasn't A lot of us weren't big into history, but we do know from what our grandparents and parents have told us, and what we have learned in history classes and civics classes and stuff when they did have them. So I think, really, if we're going on this cycle, I think that's why we see certain patterns that have developed in society. Like, we already did this. Why are we doing this again? And like, we already solved this problem. This is a manufactured problem, so we repeat history. Like
well,
the C19, that one, that we already did that. We've done that multiple times. So when are we going to learn from it? The problem is, the generation that is now the younger millennials and the Gen Zers and stuff, and even some of the boomers, don't see that we've already done this. Like, we've already gone down that path. We've done that in the 19th century multiple times. Why are we keep repeating it? Well, we keep repeating it because we're not learning about it.
well, I think I possibly, I blame a spiritual movement that happened in the Christian church on possibly putting us back. It was called a drunken glory movement. Now, I was a part of it, but if you look at all the leaders that were a part of it, they all formed their own little groups. And every leader that created this movement collectively divided. Every single one. And they all believe within their constructed consciousness that they had the 100% reality of what the direction of this world should be. Every single leader. And if you look at all the leaders that were all a part of it, every single one of them fell in one way or another. Every single one of them.
But it's not just religion based, and I think that's the one thing. It's society based, because it's
So
you have different religions. Hold on a second. You have different religions that are sitting there saying the same thing, but we keep going over the same thing over and over again. Our actions haven't changed. I
right.
think with the most recent, which was 2020, we fought back more than we did in the 1980s. We fought back more than in the 1960s. We fought back more than the early 1900s. So what they do is they change the dates. They move stuff around. I've seen the dates for the Spanish flu moved around multiple times. But I had a grandmother that was born in 1910. So, and a grandfather that died of polio. So I have the ancestral talkings too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think I think that needs to be more done. I think that needs to be done more. We need word of mouth a lot more. And I think that's where YouTube does come in handy when we're not being censored. But
well, what I guess what I'm getting at is, like, my generation that collectively created this spiritual movement did affect a conscious aspect of our reality. So what their consciously collective consciously collective reality was affected human consciousness in a way that didn't move us as humanity in a forward direction. Because if you look at on a physical plane, if you're drunk on a physical plane, you stay cycling in your life. Like, if you drink heavy and you continue to drink heavy throughout your life, you don't progress emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. So the movement itself was all based on consciously being in a blissful state of consciousness that disconnected people from connection to being grounded on earth and being here. And so what people collectively created within that movement consciously was a disconnection from what was going on in our lives and what was going on here on the earth. So they escaped consciously through this drunken energy and disconnected their consciousness and their awareness of what collectively what was actually going on earth. So it put humanity consciously from moving and growing from what had already happened. And that I was a part of that. And the people that were all a part of that. And I'm just observing it, and it's a very small percentage of humanity. It's not but it was in the spiritual consciousness. So it infiltrated consciousness in the New Age. It infiltrated consciousness in churches. It infiltrated consciousness in society because of what these people believe wholeheartedly. So in doing so, we did not, as humanity, emotionally develop and mentally develop where we could create change and learn from the things that had already happened here. There was a guy named Thomas Merton back in the 60s that warned about what we'd call pseudo-mysticism. And Ram Dass said the same thing, is that like he didn't know any more than anyone else. And a lot of these people that I was a part of drew from people like Merton, Ram Dass, Alan Watts, things that had already taken place in the 60s. Things, revelations and understandings and spiritual awareness that had already taken place like back in the 60s and 70s. So those things were re-implemented, repackaged, and created in a way that did not progress the societal awareness to change this.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, David. I want to address something Gerald said. He said the way to control the narrative is to look at the young while the old, basically silencing the old and teaching whatever you want to the young. I do believe that. I do believe that the way they control the narrative is by not having the generations talk to each other, like grandparents to grandchildren and great grands and stuff like that. That is one way they definitely control the narrative. And I think a lot of this has to go, and I'm not big into conspiracy theories, y'all know that, but I do know what I've seen both spiritually and in the physical world. So I'm just like, hey, we can, teach people what happened throughout history and stop repeating it. Realize that we're on a cycle and we'll continue on different cycles because that's how humanity runs, but we don't have to take the same path all the time. We can veer off. Or keep what serves us well, which strengthens society, which strengthens the individual and ourselves, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't. And I think that's important to know the difference, but you'd have to have an agreement to do that on a whole world spectrum. And that's the thing, you don't. And that's where differences really collide. And that's what makes it difficult to not get off the cycle of doing the same thing. But even with the spirituality thing, which I said was huge in the 1920s, and it did cause a lot of chaos and then came back to haunt us in the 80s, we still haven't learned from that.
Right.
Like we still haven't, because we're human. We have curiosities, I like to hear people's supernatural stuff. I am intrigued by it. I've seen a lot of supernatural stuff as well, and had plenty of encounters with ghosts and different things. I don't go to certain places though. Gettysburg is a place I don't go. I don't go to places where I know my psychic abilities will be too high of an alert and I could be attacked.
Right.
And I think that's important to think of, even if you're not a psychic. Where are you what situations are you putting yourself in that leads you to a spiritual attack?
Right.
And as children, they can't do that. It's up to the adults. But when you become an adult, you can do that, right?
Right.
Like that then becomes your choice. And just stay, like I said, not everything needs to be found out. Not everything needs to be known. And some things you can leave to intrigue.
Well, one of the core things that in the movement that I was a part of is they tried to remove the ego and say that once you remove your ego, you become a god. Now, that's stupidity, in my opinion. That is removing essentially your self-development, because ego is a part of who you are, whether you like it or not. You're going to have an ego, whether any human being likes it or not. It's a part of who you are as a human being. It's how a human being expresses themselves, and in their likes, their dislikes, what their personal development within is a part of. And so when someone attempts to atrophy and say that they become a god because they don't have an ego, they are in self-deceit. They're on a glory ego trip. They're on a glory ego trip. So they're all ego tripping, saying that they're gods in the glory. These are the people I was a part of. So they have the biggest ego. Yeah, they're driven by their ego. But they say they don't have one.
Within the astrology sector of things, there is that people take on different egos, and that can be done either consciously or subconsciously. So it either is because of the planetary alignments, or they are choosing to. Do you ever hear of like someone say you're acting like such and such, or a parent calls a child by the sibling's name because it reminds me, or you remind me of such and such? That's a learned thing to take on that person's ego, and it can happen. There is also the subconscious way of it, which is the planetary alignment in the birth chart, where depending on what signs are in your birth chart, you can have a heightened sense of different egos depending on the sector in your life. So say like you can be a certain way at work, but then a different way at home. You can be a different way with money than you are with, friends, and all that can depend on your birth chart. So you have different egos within your birth chart. But if anybody wants to look into egos and transitioning egos within astrology, the best person I've seen that covers that is Dennis Eggleston. He is on YouTube. I do suggest you to check him out. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to ego, the mathematics around the ego. He has multiple ways of explaining it that are very interesting, and he's been doing it for years.
Right.
So Dennis Eggleston, if anybody's interested, go check him out. He talks, I think the one example that he was saying was about the Gemini, because the Gemini can take on either all masculine ego, or masculine and feminine ego. And that person can choose which one they take, they let kind of control their behavior. But if they're not really meant to be that person, meaning the rest of their chart isn't like that, then they'll have problems. They'll have problems in their life that they don't need to have. They just switch their ego to the different one. And it's not a gender thing, and it's not like that kind of stuff. What it is, when they say masculine and feminine, doesn't mean male and female. It's a trait. It's just a masculine trait or female trait, like more emotional, maternal type trait, or more paternal. And it could be a male or a female. It doesn't matter which one. So he pinpoints that down the line. If you're not meant to be a masculine ego, and you take one on, you're going to have problems. Whether it's relations with people, or internal problems where you're not going to like yourself. No, I'm not for the whole gender dysphoria thing, but it's also it's just an internal thing. So if you have, let's say, a male Gemini, and they're not meant to be in the male ego. They're more meant to be in the feminine ego. Then they might have some problems in not
Right.
understanding who they are. And that's all
Right.
dependent on their birth chart. So even when I say to people, I can give you a general, but that general is not going to be specific unless I look at your birth chart. But he goes through all the egos of the zodiac, and he does it very well. So check him out, Dennis Eggleston.
Right on. Well, I mean, where was I going with this? I think that you know, there's this other whole thing that and I don't ever remember in my youth the term narcissism. How the narcissist empath movement that happened in the consciousness collectively. It's not a movement, it's just an awareness. That awareness happened in the last like 10 years in the psychological sense to humanity. But in you do see it if you look into the psychological world. That wasn't a terminology that I ever heard until the last 10 years.
No, it was a way to control people and separate people. And the reason why it's a way to control people and separate people, because you can just be like, oh, you're just a narcissist.
Exactly.
And you're toxic. So, because that was a big one that just came up too in the more recent decade, that everybody's toxic and your behavior is toxic and toxicity and male toxic and this toxic and that toxic.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you why it is. When push comes to shove, it comes down to boundaries. And you have some people that don't know how to draw a hard boundary, and some people that don't realize when they cross a hard boundary. And it is doing what you feel is right for you. So, say you don't want to go somewhere. You're like, oh, you got a lot of wind coming up, David.
What's that?
It's very windy.
Yeah, it is kind of windy out here. Yeah.
But you have like someone that's like, oh, I want to go to this party. You have to come with me. And the other person's like, I don't want to go. Well, you have to go because I go. So
people like that.
Right. So, and they're like, well, I want you to go, so you should go because I don't want to be alone. I'm going to have fear. I'm going to have anxiety if you don't go. You have to go with me. And they keep talking about, till the other person, even though they don't want to go, gives in and is like, all right, fine, I'll go. And what that problem is a boundary issue. It's not listening to what the person is saying to you. So in a respectful way, you can go, I don't want to go, right? Someone come up and say, I want you to go to this party. Say no. And draw that hard boundary. That hard boundary is no, I'm not going. Well, you just don't love me if you won't go. I'm sorry you feel that way, right? I'm sorry you feel that way. But no, I'm not going. So it's people that have used sympathy and empathy to make other people feel bad so they do what they want them to do. That's not necessarily a narcissistic issue. That is a control issue and an overstepping boundaries issues, and the other person needs to stick to their boundary. So if I say no, it's no. I say that all the time. My family knows it, my friends know it, my husband knows it. If I say no, it's no. My father even knows it. He asked me something. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No is no. No is no. You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
Well, yeah. That's the world I grew up in. It was you have to be able to say no to people.
You
sometimes
have to be
it's
able
like
to say no.
I had a dude that I knew, and he's married now, and he's moved on. Like, I haven't talked to him in years, but I met him in my 20s, and I had a car. The dude didn't have a car, so he was always asking me for rides, like all the fucking time. And I had other friends like that. I had a car, they didn't have a car. you have to say no sometimes. Like, they might not like it,
No,
but
then you get the person that's asking go to the party with me. They're not respecting the boundaries of the other person that said no. It's because they're only thinking about what they want. And then the person that originally said no, I really don't want to go, and was softer about it, they're not realizing that they're not being taken seriously and not necessarily being manipulated, but being pushed into it. Oh, I don't want them not to like me. Oh, I don't want them. And that comes with self esteem. That absolutely comes with how you look at yourself. So if you have self esteem and you have true self esteem, I'm not talking about this, I'm a bad bee type crap. I'm talking about you have actual self esteem. Because I'm telling you right now, if somebody goes up and be like, I'm a bad bee, then they don't have self esteem. They're just
no, they
showing it.
don't. No,
So,
that's just egotism.
right.
That's just
So,
overly inflated, glory ego trip again. I'm the shit. You should fucking do what I say. What's that? No. No, I don't think so. Like,
yeah, it's just
I saw
when they
this.
go into the, oh, I got this, I got that. I'm like, no, because
I
when I
saw,
say no, it's actually no.
I saw
No, we're
this
good.
when I went to a place called Second Helpings, and there was this woman there, and she was young, a lot younger than me. But she thought, when we all had to work together, we had all backgrounds of different walks of life. She was a Christian or whatever, but we were working together. And at one point, when we were all cooking, she was going around trying to like police everybody. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, that's
You know,
control
it
issue.
is. It is.
Because you have to remember there are generations and people out there that were told in order, if you maintain control, you're looked at higher than, right? So that could be a learned process throughout childhood. That could be a learned process throughout society, whichever. But there are people that were raised like that. Like if you come off in that control, then you have self-esteem. You're higher than. However, the person that just point blankly says no and may weigh the option like, well, I really don't want to go, but I'll go today, but I'm not going to go again. That's a little different, right? Than somebody who
Right.
keep at you, keep forcing the situation. It's the ones that keep forcing the situations that it's a control issue, but it's also the other person not having the self-esteem to stand up for themselves and be like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. And I see that a lot in like certain areas, especially parents and stuff like that. Well, I don't want them to be sad. I don't want them to be angry. I don't want them to hate me. I don't want them, what will they do if I don't have them in at the age of 35? Where will they go? What will they do? And what this, and I might be upsetting some people out there, so I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. You have to let them grow up. You have to let them let go. You have to be able to let go. And I see that in a lot of society and parenting. Well, I can't punish them because they'll be sad, and that's a societal thing. You can't yell at them because it'll hurt their feelings and bruise their ego. And
Right.
that's okay, right? So it's kind of like okay, now you're getting on the societal thing, and this can be rectified if you realize life sometimes is sad. You will have moments where you have to cry. You have to get it out. It's a human emotion. Just like anger, intelligence, and everything else is, it is programmed in us. It is a part of who we are. So sometimes you're going to be sad. Not everything's going to go your way, and that's okay. You get up, you brush it off, you shake it off, you go on and you try again, or you try to do something else, or you heal from it. But
Right.
if you're not, if you don't have that in life, If that's not a skill you develop, it becomes hard when you become an adult because you're used to things being your way.
Right.
And so now you have younger millennials and Gen Zers that don't know when they are told no, that it's going to be a disappointment for them. They're learning stuff they should have learned before. And
Right.
I think it's sad, but I think it's a societal thing. It's not necessarily a parent thing. It's not blaming the parent, it's blaming society. It's what we've become. But this is also a cycle. We've already been there, done that. Everything that we're going through right now, we've already done throughout history.
Right. Well, that's history's repeating itself in a way that's I don't by observance I don't know where this goes because I every day I mean like I've lived outside of the societal construct for the last 7 years. So I've had an apartment, I've worked, I've lived in and out of a car, I've lived in and out of shelters, I've lived in a storage unit, I've worked, I've done the and even when the COVID crap hit, I I don't know what happened. I didn't know what the TV was telling people to do because I wasn't watching the TV. I wasn't stuck in my home watching TV and watching all the news and I don't. So I have a different perspective on where we're at here, but I also every day in traveling across the United States and talking to different people from all walks of life. I mean, all walks of life. I hear the same thing from a lot of people. And they're from all different age groups. Except the really younger generation, but people between the age of 30 and the age of like 50 or 60, they're all going, if they're aware enough, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like something's way off.
So y'all can write this down. Here's my prediction on society, on the world, whatever you want to call it. So world prediction is going to be 2046. It's going to gear up again. Right now, we're in a push and pull between two different sides, two different ways to go. 2046, people are going to have enough of that, but they're also going to try another epidemic or pandemic at that point in time. It's going to continue. How we handle it will shape the next 30 years, which most of us will not live through because talking like, you know what I mean, 30 years from
Right.
2046. Right. But how we handle in 2046 to 2048 is going to be pivotal to what happens in the next 30 years. We already had our shot. We had our shot, but we were all over the place and all mixed up. So the next one is going to be 2046. We know more. We have more knowledge than we had previously. There's more people invested in what happens throughout the world and in society and so on and so forth. If you haven't picked it up from the 80s, definitely 2020 was your time to be like light bulb going off, right?
Right.
So 2046 is when it's going to happen again.
That's about the same date that Archaics is saying. So
yeah,
2040.
2046.
2040 is another one that's coming. So
no,
that's
2040 isn't anything. It really isn't. It's 2046. It happens every 30
Okay.
years. Every 30
Okay.
years. I've traced it back to 1451. I didn't go further than 1451. I could have, but I didn't. It's every 30 years. Now, it can be off a year or two. You got leap year, so give it 2 to 4 years, whatever. But I'm saying from the research I've done, it's 2046 to 48 is going to gear back up. And it's a 4-year span. So what we should have fixed in 2016 and didn't by 2020, that's what we're going to be living in. So what we're living in now, it may heal a little bit from the uproar. It always does. But it's going to be 2046 to 2048. And that's from all my
Right.
research. And I did that research since 2016.
Right.
So everything I've seen coming down the pike is going to gear up again in 2046. And then we got the 4-year time span to decide what direction we go in.
Right.
We didn't decide a direction in
Right.
2016. We kind of
Well,
we did what we didn't. We
I
pushed and
think
pulled.
the awakening that happened in my lifetime was between 2000 and 2016. You know, like 99 was a cusp. Then they did 9/11, which was a wake up call. That was hold up. This is massive. Like, they did it. They told us they were going to do it, and then now societal structure is being reformed.
But that
And
was
then
actually put into place in 88.
Yeah, it goes back to around that time period.
The reason why it goes back to 88, I'm sorry, I'm coughing, so if I keep muting, I apologize, but I don't want to cough in y'all's. And the reason why that goes back to 88 is that's when the Persian Gulf War started.
Right.
88 through 91, 92. And I'm saying this because I lived through it, not because I Googled it. So, because they keep changing the dates on shit to try to manipulate stuff. But
well, I was a kid then, so I didn't have the awareness of all this. I was only 9 or 10. You know, I was born in 81, so my awareness of all this was I was still playing in creeks. You know,
so
like
88 kind of geared up for the global economy, the Persian Gulf War, which started the trek through 9/11. So it was geared up in 88. The consequences of what was chosen during that time, and I'm saying 88 through 92, the consequences of that we lived out already. That's already lived. It's already done. 9/11 already happened, everything. But if you keep going back, things start like, I'll take 1929, which I know they changed the date, but I'm going from history that I've already learned, so not what Google says. Was the fall of the great fall of the stock market. What was geared up from that was the fall of the black stock market, which
you're talking about the depression. You're
Yeah,
talking about the depression time
the
period.
depression and etc. Yes, which led to countries going on a more socialistic, communistic way, right? Because the opportunity was taken. I'm talking worldwide, not just in the United States. So when that started, that geared up for World War II. Everything gears up from a certain specific point, and then the consequences of the decisions that were made during those 4 years play out in the rest of the years. Now we had what we did in 2016. We're living those consequences out now, and will be till, and not, when I say consequences, it's not all bad. You know, I'm not an all bad type person, so it's not all bad. But we're living out the aftermath of the decisions we made in 2016 now, and will be till 2046, 20 to 2048, and the new decisions will be made, and they'll be living them out. The thing is, what we are supposed to do is learn, because we already been there, done that. Like, if you look at the C-19 that we got to watch because censorship and shit. If you look at the C-19, we already did that. That was already done in the 80s. It came back around with the AIDS epidemic. So things have already happened and we're redoing them. But it's the
Right.
choices that we make. Now, did we learn something from the 80s from that with C-19? Yeah, we did, because a lot of people fought against it and did different things, which didn't happen in the 1980s. And it didn't happen during the Spanish flu either, which again, dates have changed. If you Google them, they're different dates all the time. Like, it's crazy the way they have mixed up dates. But if you learn through history and you remember some of the dates through history, and that's why we used to have like old nursery rhymes that were
Right.
about history, like London Bridges or Jack and Jill, and it was a way to teach children the code, but we forgot to tell them when and what happened, right? Because a lot of us, when we were younger, especially Gen X, I don't think we knew what London Bridges really was about.
No.
You
Well,
know what I'm saying?
I studied the history of drugs in my youth because of the being put on Ritalin, and then starting to question the pharmaceutical industry and starting to. So I wanted to know, like, I learned about acid and all that when I was 16, 15, and I was really interested in all this, not because I wanted to screw my brain up and fuck my head up, but like I wanted to grasp what the history of all this was and where it all came from, because I was put on Ritalin. So it's like, oh, you're put on this drug to control and regulate your mind. So what else is out there? And then we had the DARE thing, and they told us don't do these drugs and blah 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 blah. But if you follow even in that line of thinking, the historicity, if you want to call it that, or the historical context of that, and the underground drug culture that was cultivated in America, that really didn't. I mean, the prohibition was the beginning of it. But drug culture, or the American drug culture, or the even concept of that, didn't begin within the youth until the drug acts of the 1920s. So prior to the drug acts of the 1920s and the prohibition, all that was there was no regulation of it. And then they begin implementing these different laws circulating around certain substances after the 1920s, which you look at reefer madness, you look at the prohibition, you look at how some of these things have been either demonized or regulated to curb society. Acid wasn't even conceived, because it was conceived out of an ergot plant back in the 1930s in Germany by a dude named Albert Hoffman. That was not released by the CIA into the American public until the 1960s. So they intentionally had learned how to synthesize this drug, and they experimented within. Have you ever heard of the movie Jacob's Ladder?
Yeah, I've watched that.
Yeah, that was in the 80s or whatever. That's what they did to the military. So, and then there was another movie, Men Who Stare at Goats or something like that, which was a more humorous kind of take on all the ideas of that. But the Jacob's Ladder was like a very dark version of it. But if you look at the societal constructs and in the way that society curbs, it very much interlinks with the way that some of these drugs have been used to curb the consciousness of society. So the way that it was done, they demonized weed, right, back in the 30s or 40s. And I followed people like Jack Kerouac and William S. Burroughs and people from the 40s and 50s who were like the beatnik generation. Read a lot of Jack Kerouac. Sadly, I think he died alcoholic and just drunk off his ass at the end of his life. But like, then the Merry Pranksters, and these were all created as ways to curb the way that the societal construct of reality moves. So they have also, with history here, they have found a way to basically demonize certain things or illegalize certain things and then release them in the public. Like ecstasy. Ecstasy was used in counseling, I heard, back in the 80s. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I had heard. Now,
It wasn't
do you know if that's
ecstasy, it was Effexor.
or MDMA? Was it MDMA?
No, it was Effexor.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, Effexor, not ecstasy, Effexor.
Okay.
But I do want to say, so we see the problems, so let's get to the solutions. I'm not about just complaining about something and not having some type of solution for it. So we can say that we've noticed this, we've noticed that, we noticed this, we noticed that. Just like with the Mandela effect, right? We saw it, it worried us, scared some people, freaked some people out, however. And then we gathered information, and even though we don't have a substantial cause, we know how to handle it. So it's not as big of a deal as it was when it first started. Like, we got used to it. We know when we see something, we're like, oh, that's the Mandela effect, right? When a
Right.
building pops up overnight, you're like, oh, okay, that's just the Mandela effect. So we found a way to handle it. But with the problems that we have to have a solution. We can't just sit there and say, these are the problems and this is the history of it. What's the solution? Like, my thing with schools is, like, as far as schooling goes, I'm all for homeschooling for people like I have a whole homeschooling plan that if I had kids, this is what I would talk to my community about. I have it out right, like down to opening a school in a church and taking the religious exception of what you have to teach them and what you don't teach them, but actually them being taught by stay-at-home moms. And for the working parents, you know, you when you open up a daycare, you can usually take 5 to 1, so 5 kids to 1 person in most states. So if you
Right.
get multiple stay-at-home moms, you can have multiple kids in the classroom. Independent lessons, meaning that all the children don't have to be on the same grade level, and the older kids can help younger kids, and that's how we build a community, right? So it's a whole big plan that I have. If I were to have kids, this is what I would try to do in my community. So we have to have some solutions and some plans of solutions. And I think one of the biggest is talking to the young people and telling them, this is what we've learned throughout our life. Because if you think about how a lot of us have learned, it's through our parents, grandparents, or elders, or whoever has custody of you when you were young. That's how you learn the majority of it. So having an open discussion, like I knew about the depression and polio and all different kind of things coming from my grandparents and from my dad and my mother. So talk to the young kids, educate them on the history that happened while you were there. And I think that's the most important thing, honestly. That's one solution to the problems that we're having. And the other one is build self-esteem. We have to get people to have self-esteem.
Right.
I think we've come so emotionally dependent on other people that if, like, oh, they don't agree with me, then they must not be my friend, or if they agree with me, they're the enemy, right? So that comes from having self-esteem. Someone can disagree with me and I don't care if they disagree with me.
Right.
I respect their opinion, but I don't care if they disagree. They're allowed to have their own opinion. And I think that's an important lesson too. We need to figure out how to get this out throughout the world, so we can say, hey, listen, you can agree to disagree, and that's okay. It doesn't mean the other person's your enemy. It doesn't mean you can't find something in common with them. It doesn't mean that they're the worst person ever. And I think a lot of that has to happen, and it has to happen sooner than later. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Well, I was saying this about like the Mandela affected reality and all of that, and I said this on a channel we know, over at Sandy's or whatever. But I was like, why doesn't all of us? Because I noticed this with Jake Chris and that time period when we were all on here. Why, like when all those channels were popping up, when Jake Chris was around, when you know Brian McFarlane and Moneybags 76 is what he originally was. But that changed. In his universe changed, but why in regards to a solution for historical context or the changing of reality or the fact that these things have happened to bring like the sea thing,
Right.
why isn't there, like, why aren't people buying up property or homes and creating spaces where there are evidences of like a museum of all this history that is real history that we witnessed, so we can educate people about the past of the history so we can change the future. So like we can't change that all these things have changed. We can't change. We don't know the cause of how the Bible gets rewritten before our eyes. I mean, that's happened. But we do have evidences of things from the past that change, like Beam Me Up Scotty. I have pictures of it, but I found a real bumper sticker that had that plastered on it. So if there was a museum that was created of what actually happened with the C thing and the Jabby thing, because what they were programming through the program was not happening. I walked to hospitals around that time. They weren't packed. People weren't like falling over dead in society. Like I walked around. None of that happened.
I think because it takes an organization, whenever you're looking at like building a museum for anything, it takes an organization with independent donators to do that. And I don't see that happening because there has been no organization that has enough private donators to do something. Like it hasn't it it's on a grand scale, but because of the social issues around it, like
Right.
it's not. Does that make sense? It's on a grand scale. There's many people that died from shit and from other shit that happened during that period. But there also like is a social thing that it's not one of the, it's just not. It's just not. It's not going to be welcome. Like everybody, when you look at the Titanic was a tragedy, right?
Right.
There's no one saying the Titanic was a happy thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it was a tragedy, and nobody's fighting over like more lives could have been saved, right?
Well, like the Holocaust and 9/11.
Right.
Staley covered the conspiracies behind all that, and people did not like what he was saying, so they censored a lot of his work on that.
Right, because we can all agree they're tragedies. They're massive tragedies, and so was the time period we're talking about too. But because there's people out there that it's not a consensus like the Titanic is, like 9/11 is. No matter whether you think it happened because of this reason or that reason, it was still a huge tragedy. We're not there yet. We're not there, and I don't know if we'll ever be there with COVID because we were never there with the Spanish flu. How many
Right.
Spanish flu museums do we have? I don't know of any. And if they are, they're
Right.
definitely not here, right?
Right.
So, because of that reason, and the syphilis trials are another one. I don't know of any museum, and that killed plenty of people, and they did it on purpose. But that's sides of thing. That's besides. That's getting off what I'm saying. So I think if there's a consensus, then yes, you can get the private donors and stuff like that. But private donors have businesses in which they retain their money from. So they get their money because they have a business. So what they invest in could affect their business. So if they give money to like a Titanic museum, then that's fine.
Right.
That's nobody in society is going to be like, oh, that ship had to sink, needed to sink, right?
Right.
But when you go into like COVID and the Spanish flu and different things like that, because there's not a huge consensus around it, they're not just like, polio. The only go ahead, I'm sorry. We do have to end soon. We've been on for over 3 hours, and
Yeah.
I do.
No, it's all good.
But
Well,
what were you going to say?
our society's divided on that one. I've watched enough videos that there is a mass group of people that says don't do the jabby jab, and it was all like planned out to control society. And then there's the other half that said, no, you're a threat to society if you don't do this. So that is and it's divided in half. Like,
yeah, it is. It's not. There's not enough of a consensus. Like I said, I used the Titanic for a reason, because no one can say, "Oh, that ship, it sank. It needed to sink. Good riddance, bad rubbish, that kind of shit." They don't say that stuff. We all are in agreement. It was a tragedy. No matter if you think it was the Titanic or whatever one or whatever, it's still a tragedy. It's a
right.
huge tragedy. And not that I don't think COVID was a tragedy either, because I do. But the consensus around it is so like polar that private donors wouldn't donate to that. There's no way,
Right.
because they're risking their businesses and stuff like that. I do want to ask people, if you're watching this, hit the like button, share, subscribe. If you want to tune in to some of my other live streams and videos that I do, please hit the button. I am the queen of pop-ups. Everybody knows that. I am the queen of pop-up streams, because this is definitely a pop-up. I thought about it a half hour before I did it. But I'm so glad you're here, Blue. But it's really just like I'm watching now. I'm big into the Titanic thing. That's another reason why I used that example.
Right.
Because I'm watching the RMS Titanic, which they fund the Titanic museums and stuff like that. They're funding this guy who's taking all the historical documentation from the survivors on the Titanic and different people that witnessed things happening with the Titanic, like such as builders and stuff like that. He's taking all this historical information and he makes videos out of it.
Right.
Like he's made the Senate testimonies of who, the survivors and stuff, and all different types of stuff. Like he does all this. He went on the excavation for the statue that was in the hall. He's been on trips and everything, and he interviews those people too. He does a lot of interviewing and a lot of historical things, and I'm interested in that. I have a high interest in the Titanic, so and I'm not a person that believes, oh, that wind, Can you turn your mic a different way so we're not
Yeah, it's
getting
yeah. I'll block it.
okay? But there is, I'm not one that we should disturb a gravesite, and I really do think Titanic is one. So I'm not big on bringing artifacts from there up. They belong to the people that died along with it, as far as I'm concerned. But the testimonies of the people that survived the Titanic are really good. Like he does a really good job, and he's gone through all that. So if you check out RMS Titanic on YouTube, he's got a lot of videos.
Right.
And I don't see private donors actually doing that. Does that make sense?
Right.
But I agree with you. It
Well,
doesn't mean it shouldn't be done.
I just, it's something that I think because it is a intricate part of our reality at this point, and it dates back, to Philip K. Dick. That is the beginnings that I can find in our history of what we call the Mandela effect, is his theories and his belief structure. If you study Philip K. Dick, you study what he said in the 1970s. He's the father of it, because he's the one who identified that things change here and we don't notice because we're too busy with life. So this has been going on a lot longer than any of us realize. It's just, we, like, collectively, humanity became aware of it completely because we had the internet, but between 2009 and 2016, there's videos dating all the way back to like 2009 talking about all this. I think it was EYA has found archived videos of some woman talking about it in 2009. So, even if it was privately funded by collectively all of us, why not get in? And that's what I was thinking, even when the J. Chris days, why aren't we all that everybody is aware of whatever we are aware of collectively? When J. Chris was doing his thing, there were so many of us, and none of us, like very few of us are left on here that I'm aware of. I don't, who's left on your side. Like, that was,
Well, Series is one, Cursed is one, I'm one, you're one. B, Brenda, she's one that's still around. She's not on YouTube, but she's still around. She watches YouTube. There's not many from the original. Trust me, I'm trying to get a channel for the original people, but I can't find them. Even if I try to contact them on Discord or something like that, they're pretty much gone. I have seen like some people say that, you know, they just moved on from it. Like you get used to it. Like I said earlier, you get used to it because we know it. We know at least what it is. We don't know what's causing it, but we have a name for it. So when it comes up, we're just like, just the Mandela effect. All right, that's just the Mandela effect. All right, that's so we have a comfortability for it. And I think with all the logos and stuff like that, we've kind of made it known. I've seen it on plenty of Gen X videos and stuff like that. But we've kind of made it to where people know if you say Mandela effect, even if they don't know the ins and outs of it like we do, because we've been here for like a decade with it, they still know about it.
right.
So in a sense, we made YouTube the museum. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
The problem is when the creators leave, when the creators of the content leave, they take it with them. They delete it. And that's why, using a screen name is good because you still have the anonymity. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But like I keep all this away from my family. If they come to me and talk about it, that's one thing, but I don't go to them and talk about it. I keep it
Right.
away from them because I know how it's messed up some people.
Right.
And, you know, we've seen it happen. And I don't think, you know, and Wake Up or Else and EYA and Sandy and Lost Geo and me, we try to keep it like, hey, if anybody's noticing this stuff, it's the Mandela effect. But really, I think society has even become numb to it. I don't think it's as important anymore as it
Well, I
once
think it
was.
was so. It was so when it was termed, in when there was such an awakening to it or an awareness of it. It was a new thing, collectively on here. And now there are so many other videos, and so it's so convoluted.
I don't know what
There,
happened to Migs.
yeah, me.
I
I
don't know
don't
what
either.
happened to Migs. I think
She just
honestly,
dropped off.
I think people, there was less of demand for, not as many people were watching it, not as many people were interested in it. It became very commercialized. And to those who originally saw it, I didn't see it commercialized. I didn't see it. I saw it spiritually. I saw changes in people. That's how I saw it. That's what led
Right.
me to it. Like, I know Kit Kat had the dash and stuff, but that's not what caught my interest. What caught my interest was, why are people so different? Like, why, like, people that are close to me different, and what's going on? And hey,
Right.
Steve-O, how are you? Hey, Kimmy. And everything was like that. But you also have to look at, too, not, and I tell you this, and you should already know this, but for some people who don't know this, you do not wake people up to it. You do not do that. And the reason why is you break their sense of reality, or you can break their sense of reality.
Oh
So you
yeah.
don't do that. You don't do that. I have done it on mistaking sometimes when I'm explaining the channel, but as a rule, you don't do that because you'll either get a hard shoulder to it, or you can destroy their reality, especially if you're hitting a core belief.
Oh yeah.
I don't suggest that. Like, I don't suggest that at all. And the good thing about Jay Chris is that he didn't do that. He didn't hit the core belief. He never did.
He was able to convey it in a way that it allowed people to discover it for themselves. And I think that he was able to present it in a way, and I saw this with
Freak.
Stavely. Stavely was able to do the same thing. He was able to present it in a way where people had to really question what they had accepted as reality.
Right.
And Jay Chris did the same thing. He could point you to the phenomenon
But
and allow
not
you
break
to,
the reality.
yeah,
And
and
that was the
allow you
important thing.
to
Whereas,
to
like,
either accept it
Wake
or
Up,
not.
EYA and Wake Up or Else, I think they have broken people's reality, honestly. I have nothing
Well,
against either one of them, but I think they have. I think when you go into someone's core beliefs, like their religion, that's a no-go. That's a non-touch
well,
thing.
Kerwin. I mean, like, I think he's doing it in the way that he's doing it because of his background,
Yeah, I do
and
too.
and I mean, like, I was raised the same way. So for me, the Bible changing thing is massive, and dealing with people in the religious construct and in
I
the
don't, I don't
biblical,
go there. I don't go
you it, they
there.
are impossible to deal with.
Right,
They
you
are
just don't go there. And that's why I say
they-
you don't go there, you don't touch on base on it, you leave it the hell alone. And if they notice it, you're there for them, right? That's all you
right.
can do. And I think that's a good way to approach it. I am going to end the stream. I do want to talk to you for a minute backstage, but if anybody wants to come and do a quick, it'll be a quick one, a quick backstage. But I do want to talk to David alone for a minute. Give me about 2 or 3 minutes, and then you guys can come up. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. So please, guys, if you want to come in, get together, talk a little bit, chill, bullshit. The link is pinned at the top of the chat. I'm going to end this, Dave. I'm going to drop you down for a minute.
Sweet.
All right.
All right.
All right. Hey, guys, we had a great show. Ran really long. Was not expected because I wasn't even going to do a live stream tonight. I apologize to Mud Rabbit because she wanted to do a stream tonight and I didn't, and then I wound up doing one. So she'll be on next week's stream, Friday night. I'm usually on. So click the like, share, and subscribe. Ring the little bell, and I will see you all next week. Y'all have a good night. And I want to thank everybody for coming in the chat. I went over some of them, but Blue, it was great to see you here. I hope to see you again. And Michael Fontaine, Creek, Kimmy, Steve-O, Dave, thank you for being on panel with me. Cursed series. Who am I missing? Jen, oh my God, so great to see you, girl. Kitty Cattywhack, great to see you. I don't blame you for hanging low for a little bit, but I hope you come to more of the live streams. I miss you. Everybody, you have a good night, and I'll be back again. Peace.